It's time for Twit, and we have assembled a blue ribbon panel to explain what the hell is going on in the stock market this week, including Christina Warren from Microsoft, Philip Elmer DeWitt of PED30, and my good friend Alex Wilhelm. He's a finance guy from TechCrunch. It's all coming up next on Twit. Our Twit annual survey is almost done. We don't want to miss your feedback. One more week to go to twit.tv/survey21. It shouldn't take you more than a few minutes. You could skip anything you don't want to tell us. We don't track you, but we do like to know more about you, and this is our way of doing it once a year. Completely voluntary, but it does help us, both selling advertising and knowing more of who you are and what you want. Go to twit.tv/survey21, and thanks in advance.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is Twit, This Week in Tech, episode 808, recorded Sunday, January 31st, 2021. Shorting the Turnips. This Week in Tech is brought to you by Mint Mobile. Switching to Mint Mobile's premium wireless service is the easiest way to save this year. Maximize your savings with plans starting at $15 a month and get the plans shipped right to your door free at mintmobile.com/twit. And by Thinkst Canary. Detect attackers on your network while avoiding irritating false alarms. Get the alerts that matter. For 10% off and a 60-day money-back guarantee, go to canary.tools/twit. Enter the code TWIT in the How Did You Hear About Us box. And by Molecule. Molecule is reimagining the future of clean air, starting with the air purifier. It's not just an innovation on existing technology. It's a scientific breakthrough in air purification. For 10% off your first air purifier order, visit molecule.com, and don't forget to enter the code TWIT10 at checkout. And by Udacity. Build your tech skills through industry-leading programs created and recognized by top companies worldwide with a nano degree from Udacity in as little as 12 weeks. Visit udacity.com/twit, and don't forget to use the coupon code TWIT at checkout. You'll get 50% off through May 30th, 2021. It's time for Twit, This Week in Tech, the show where we cover your week's tech news. Oh, is this a week? Wild week. Let's join Christina Warren in her corner loft in Brooklyn, New York, which is not actually where she is, but I'll never tell. Hi, Christina.
Hey, Leo. How are you?
Senior cloud advocate at Microsoft. I am great. How are you? How is it in quarantine for you these days?
Yeah, it's been weird. Seattle, Washington State is still pretty locked down, and it's now like winter, so it's rainy and kind of gross. So it's weird, but can't complain too much. And I'm so excited to be on this week to be talking with you and with the rest of the panel about the stuff we're going to talk about. Like it couldn't have been more perfect. Like this is the perfect panel for this week.
Yes. If you were wondering what's going on, this is the panel. Philip Elmer DeWitt is also here. PED30, longtime Apple journalist, and he'll help us understand the Apple news of the week. There's a lot of it. Hi, Philip. It's good to see you.
I'll do my best.
Is the dash between Philip and Elmer or Elmer and DeWitt?
It's between Elmer and DeWitt. The truth is, I hyphenated because I married a woman for whom hyphenation was a condition of marriage.
Wow, that's worth it.
She actually capitalizes the W. We've since divorced.
Oh, and you kept her name. That's very.
I married my high school girlfriend 50 years later, and I dropped the DeWitt for living in Greenfield, Massachusetts, and also I'm now a counselor in Greenfield, Massachusetts.
What?
And I ran my I got elected to the city council, city councilor at large, and I dropped I ran a campaign on the word Elmer, so I borrowed the colors of Elmer's glue, and I had these lawn signs in Elmer's glue colors, and the slogan was "Let's stick together." Get it? So I won the election. I won the election, and now it's a 4-year term, and I'm dying. these meetings go on forever, and it's hard work.
It is hard work.
Yep.
The city of Petaluma is looking for somebody to be on their tech committee. I used to do that. Never again. But it's important work. So thank you for doing it. I'm trying to find your sign, but Google's good. No, Google's good, but I
think it's on Facebook, but don't go there.
No, I don't.
I'll dig it up maybe.
No, that's a good idea. Well, it's too late now. I want to introduce the whole panel. We have so much to talk about. I could go down every rat hole there is, but including we were just talking about buying shoes on StockX and Christina's magic formula for getting PlayStation 5s, but that's that'll be in the paid edition of This Week in Tech. that we could sell that stuff. Also here with us, and it's a good thing, Alex Wilhelm, because he is a finance guy, reporter at TechCrunch, but for a long time he ran Crunch-based news. So he's going to explain everything to us. Great to see you, Alex.
Two things. One, it's really hard to follow Philip after that introduction because that was hilarious. And
Elmer's glue, stick together. Yeah.
And I promised to try to explain as much stuff as I can, but I think that this week was so busy. We're still kind of in the middle of this news cycle, if that makes sense. So we're going to be kind of in motion here. So we'll do our best. But by Tuesday, everything here is going to be pretty out of date.
Well, you filed a bunch of stories on TechCrunch. I know about it. We're talking, of course, about the GameStop meme stock, basically. The subreddit Wall Street Bets, about deep effing value, the investor who took like a $50,000 investment and turned it into $31 million. This has been a wild story. And I think by now, probably people have heard enough about the details of this, but I'll just do a quick summary so you understand what we're talking about. GameStop, which is, one would think, on the face of it, not the best, most valuable stock one could buy. They are those brick and mortar stores, mostly in malls, which are mostly defunct, selling physical games, which no one is buying anymore because it's all gone to digital downloads. Even our 18-year-old who really loved going to GameStop, it still does. I think he bought the physical copies so he could sell them as used and maybe get more games that way. But even he is recognizing it's downloadable for the future. So for a while, GameStop stock has been going down, down, down. There was this little thing that happened. An investor who has some street credibility bought a big stake in it, right? He bought, I think, 10 or 11% of the stock, got on the board, and has been convincing them to go digital. And so maybe you could say there's something that makes you think this stock maybe has more of a future. They've been through 5 CEOs in the last 12 months. It's not a good picture. However, last fall, an investor named Deep Effing Value on the Wall Street Bets subreddit on Reddit started pumping this stock up, saying that, you know what, this is going to be good. Started to buy it. He bought, like I said, about $50,000 worth. Others did it. It became now, the new term is a meme stock, with people on Reddit, people on Discord, on the Wall Street Bets Discord server, and other places selling it up to buy this stock, buy this stock. Now, because the stock was such a laggard, it was heavily shorted by a lot of the big hedge funds like Melvin Capital, billions of dollars. And as soon as the stock price started going up, and boy, did it go up to the hundreds of dollars from $30, the shorts got squeezed. These were people who took a bet that the stock was going to go down, borrowed stock, sold it, expecting it to go down even more so they could buy it and repay the borrow. The problem is, if the stock goes up, you're kind of caught with your shorts in a bunch, because suddenly your interest is going up as the price is going up, and suddenly at some point you have to get out of this position, and it ended up costing billions of dollars for a number of hedge funds. Who got very angry. Robinhood, which is understandably, Robinhood, which is a very popular app along with Webull and a few others that are designed to get what they call retail stock buyers, people like you and me, to buy stock because they don't charge a commission, was obviously a place to go to buy GameSpot stock for a lot of these people. But then Robinhood and the stock market as a whole halted trading, which was seen by the little guys as protecting the big guys from the little guys' onslaught. And then at some point, Robinhood said you can only buy one share at a time. There were good reasons for that, which we could go into. But I think what's interesting about all of this ferment, and there are other stocks that are also seeing some of this. AMC, the movie theater chain, also suffering, but that became a meme stock. And Nokia became a meme stock. So there's a number of these meme stocks. Let me start with you, Alex. Is meme stock, it's a little bit of a put down. Like, these people aren't real investors. This is just a meme. Is that a fair characterization?
I don't think it's as pejorative as we might think on the surface. I think it's almost one of those negative things you kind of take on as a joke that you then begin to enjoy yourself. So meme stock to me just describes the group of stocks that are trading not based on fundamentals or long-term value, but based on kind of current market sentiment amongst the retail crowd. So,
and by the way, the sentiment may not be driven either by market fundamentals. It may be driven, and it seems to be somewhat driven by, let's screw the hedge funds, right?
Yeah. There's a lot of annoyance amongst retail traders about their position in the market. If you have a lot of money, you have access to better information, better tools, and faster trades. If you're a retail investor like, us here, kind of regular folks, you don't. And so it feels like the market is a little bit set up against you, and it is. And so what you're seeing here is a combination of greed, social interest, kind of people banding together on the internet to bring something together, and also annoyance with the way things are set up. And I think a lot of people are still pretty peeved about 2008, 2009, and how things kind of worked out there, and how people didn't go to jail, and how we, the taxpayers, spend a lot of money to keep these big banks alive. And so when these social traders on Reddit and other places notice that GameStop is shorted more than 100%,
140%. So I don't even know how that can happen. By the way, that's a failure of regulation. But the hedge funds have bought more GameStop stock than exists.
And sold it short. And so people knew that if they took advantage of this,
they could never
the price of it up,
make it good, right? There's not enough stock to buy.
How did they know?
One of the most interesting things.
How did they know that it had been shorted 140%? Someone sophisticated must have looked at that and figured it out. No?
So Philip, the short interest is periodically available. Before this show, I was Googling around a little bit, and you can find data on that. And with more sophisticated tooling like a Bloomberg terminal, you can definitely find out. But what's really interesting, and you raise a good point.
By the way, that's some people characterize this as 4chan with a Bloomberg terminal.
Which is exactly what it is. Which is exactly what it is.
Well, wait a minute. Now, I got to point out. And by the way, Elizabeth Warren, AOC, and others in Congress have called for an investigation. The SEC, which moves like molasses, woke up late last week and went, oh, wait a minute. I got to point out, it is not obvious. This is the superficial description of this, but it's completely possible that it wasn't just retail traders, that maybe other hedge funds were intentionally short squeezing their competition. We don't know exactly what's really going on here, do we?
No, I mean, I think that what happened, when the squeeze started, and when you did have people like Roaring Kitty and some of the other big Wall Street
Roaring Kitty is deep effing value.
Yes.
It's his YouTube handle. We'll call him Roaring
Kitty
from now on. That's probably more
right. Yeah. So when you have this guy who's turned a $50,000 investment into $31 million or whatever, and he's he's incredibly clever and incredibly smart. When you have people like him who made those moves, I do think that those were people who saw a glitch, a hole in the system, and were able to take advantage, and then were able to propel this into other things. The thing is, though, is that once the stock started rising, and once everybody started kind of staring at it like slackshod, what's happening, and it went up and up and up, obviously you're going to have like non-retail investors who are interested in it too, right? So I think that it becomes at that point, people who are doing high frequency trading and who are trading based on, having, watch lists and algorithms, and are doing all the ways that, most professionals trade now, which is not the way that retail investors trade. We're obviously going to be getting in on it. And I wouldn't be surprised if and this is usually not uncommon, where some of the hedge funds will have a position to backstop against like their short position failing, right? So I don't think we know exactly what it is. I'd be very curious to hear Alex's thoughts, my thoughts, just based on what we know now, and so much of it we're still figuring out. As he said, the news cycle has moved so quick. But my gut tells me that while most of the interest has been led by retail investors, once things shifted past a certain point, then you did start to see traditional investors, whether they be hedge funds or just high frequency traders or whatever, starting to get in on the action too, which is only going to continue to keep this frothy. And I mean, I expected the crash to have already happened. I was very clearly wrong on that. But I think this is one of those things where we're all expecting the inevitable crash. We don't know when the bottom's going to drop. But the completely nutso thing about this is that we don't know how high this is going to go until things presumably regulate themselves, assuming they do. And maybe this is one of those weird things where it won't. I think that GameStop as a company is in such a poor position that I don't see how it can continue to, stay at these levels. But yeah, to your point, I don't think it's definitely, I think that it started and was largely led by retail investors. But if people are making money in this, like the game is rigged. It is. I mean, I think anybody who's followed anything and has anything to do with finance understands and like accepts that. You can't expect the billionaires to be sitting on the sidelines and seeing regular people making money and not wanting to get in on some of the play too. I mean,
it's just bizarre. Roaring Kitty, and this is what you do on Wall Street Bets. You post pictures of your losses and your gains and so forth. He posted, and nobody can verify this, but he claims he invested $53,000, and at some point it reached $48 million. Whether he sold, I don't think, because I think he's saying hold, which I think, Alex, is nuts, because isn't this bubble going to pop at some point? Here's a picture of a kid, 10-year-old Jaden Carr. His mom gave him 10 shares in GameStop in 2019 as a Kwanzaa present.
That's amazing.
He's happy.
Amazing. I love him. Love. I genuinely love that for him.
She wanted to teach him about investing, but what lesson did Jaden learn, really, about investing? That's one of the concerns I have. I see people like my own son, naive investors, who say, I'm going to get me that Robinhood, and I'm going to put some money in here because this is a great opportunity. But what do you think, Alex? Is the bubble about to burst? Is it? I guess it's not, because more and more people are coming along saying, I got to get in on this, right? Even though now you're buying GameSpot stock at like $300. I don't know what the current price is, but $325. So that's crazy.
Look, Leo,
if this is the year-to-date graph. It was January 5th. It was $17. It is now $325. And there was a sell-off on Thursday. I'm sure there's some market off-market share trading going on right now. It's insane. It's insane. So are people going to, but don't you think people are going to get hurt by this, Alex, or no?
They are going to get hurt by it.
I mean, we know the hedge funds got hurt. Melvin Capital had to go borrow money from Stephen Cohen.
Yep. To the tune of several $1 billion.
Yeah. So the billionaires bailed out the billionaires.
We didn't do it, which is super important to note. No one knows how long this can stay up, because no one thought this was going to happen. And when you discuss people posting their trades on Wall Street Bets and other forums, what they're doing is sharing with a large crowd. And it's not like the old days where you had to go on CNBC to talk about your positions to get people to pay attention. Now you can kind of rally an army of individual traders who have access to things like options and more exotic investments than they didn't used to have. And so now you can really marshal a lot of buying power behind you. People are buying billboards and ads to encourage more people to buy and hold GameStop stock, which is a tongue twister.
Deep effing value posted, hold. Of course he wants you to hold. In fact, he wants you to buy more because his value is going to go up. You have to, at some point, you have to start wondering about these people's motivations and maybe not buy into this. It's crazy. And I don't think we fully know what's going on. But to me, there's a larger thing at play here. that actually ties into the events of the last few years. This is essentially mob action, right? Has anybody ever, I was in a mob when I was a kid. I was protesting against the Vietnam War with a big group of people. We did things that I would never have done by myself. You know, we blocked the freeway. We rocked police cars, stupid things that I would never have done. But when you get in a mob, you lose your mind and you start acting as a single brain in a mob. And we've seen this before. We saw it January 6th. In a way, to me, what's happening in the stock market with GameStop is similar to what happened in the insurrection in the Capitol, is similar to what happened, I guess you could say, in the Arab Spring. And again, what I think we're seeing is how social media, these messaging platforms like Telegram and Discord, WhatsApp, empower the formation of mobs. When I was a kid, you only became a mob because everybody said, let's go down and protest the war in Vietnam on, a certain day, and we all went. And that mob never got much bigger because there wasn't this mass medium. But social media has, in my mind, weaponized the mob. And while this seems benign to me, this is great. I'm glad some hedge funds suffered. They should. But that's today. Tomorrow, it could be less benign.
I think the comparison to the January 6th is a little bit tenuous because that was a rally that the leader of America had called people to show up to. So it was much more centralized than this sort of Reddit Discord type thing.
I'm not making deep effing value equivalent to President Trump. But
that's the point.
But I'm saying that had President Trump not had Twitter and Facebook, had the organizers not had these social media platforms, to me it looks like these social media platforms are ripe for this kind of thing. And this is what we're going to see. And I think we're going to see it a lot more often.
Just to add to that point, there's currently a new meme amongst the same trading groups to squeeze the price of silver. And I have not looked into this because all my money is in boring index funds because of journalism rules. But this is not going to stop. People have now found a lever, and they're going to keep trying to move the world as long as they can. And, we saw a lot of issues with Robinhood's ability to stay up and so forth, but they'll figure that out. They'll get that sorted out. And then once those pathways are open, there's not going to be the same kind of slows to the system. And so I don't know where this goes, but as a person who cares about the financial markets in general, I'm going to be fascinated to see what the next couple of years look like. If we do actually see the revenge of retail traders against the professional money, it will be an inversion of trends that have been going on for decades, and people are going to get hurt, Leo, but it's going to be really fun to watch the financial carnage either way.
Yeah, I don't know if it's going to be fun. I think when regular people lose, I'm sorry, I'm very deeply concerned with that. And I've been a little bit of a Debbie Downer on Twitter and on the podcast I do, Rocket, about this, because I have I will be totally honest, I was wrong in that this has continued to go up far longer than I expected, but the bottom is going to fall from this. I'm not saying that the GME is a Ponzi scheme, because it's not, but it has a lot of the same qualities that a Ponzi scheme has. And fundamentally, this is not a healthy company. This is not a good company. This is a company who most of their money is caught up in real estate in strip malls and in dying areas, who has a business model with tremendous amounts of problem, who has no e-commerce to speak of. I mean, they have an e-commerce system, but anybody who's bought from them knows how bad their logistics are. They can't compete with Best Buy or Amazon or some of the other players.
Fundamentals at all.
No, right. Exactly what I'm saying is the fundamentals of this company are poor.
But that's why it's a meme stock. It has nothing.
Right.
And by the way,
exactly.
Clarify this for me. Does GameStop get any benefit out of this at all?
This is really bad
that's
for
the
them.
other thing.
This is bad for them, Philip says. How is it bad for them?
Yeah, because they can't. There's thousands of people who work for this company, and at some point, the stock is going to revert to the basically what the stock is what the company is worth, and they're not going to be able to sell their stock or take advantage of it. I talked to a guy who used to be a sell side analyst, and he says that first of all, you can be sure that Goldman Sachs had its blood sucking thing in the middle of this. When there's a lot of money involved, the big guys glomp on and they short or long or whatever.
And they can act faster than anybody using Robinhood.
Their trades are going to be executed way faster.
Yeah.
Right. Now this guy says that it's clear that this is going to get regulated. And the question is, are these guys who have taken advantage of the social network, which gives them enormous power, to do something that Wall Street traders are not supposed to do? They're not supposed to act as a group. They're supposed to act individually. That gets bent.
Is it illegal to act in concert?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is illegal. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
But the legality doesn't. I mean, the idea of it being from a subreddit, I bet that's not
good luck.
No. Well, good. Well, yes and no.
But they did buy billboards. Look at this. Look at this.
Well, right,
there are billboards all over the country that say, there's the guy. What's his name? Hello Kitty. We like the stock. GME to the moon. These are all over the country. They bought billboards.
Right. Well, the thing is that there have been cases where the SEC has gone after news groups, like the Yahoo groups used to be popular during the .com crash, and they've gone after, newsletters and other sorts of forums for market manipulation before. It's hard to prove intent. It's hard to prove other things. I will say, as somebody who's lurked in the Wall Street Bets forums for like the subreddit, I've known about it for years. I haven't ever posted, but I've known about it. Starting last week, when I guess Thursday or Friday of a week before last, so 10 days ago, you started to see some stuff that to me seemed like pretty clear market manipulation stuff that seemed to go against the law. How do you prove that? How do you go after those individuals? I don't know if you can, but certainly, yeah, there's some stuff in here that does strike me as very different from people going on CNBC and talking about their stock. And it might be a semantical difference. And it might be something where people say, it's just
Jim
about
Cramer
access.
Is famous for pumping stocks. Right. He even got in trouble for doing it.
Well, I was going to say, usually but see, Jim Cramer, he's been in trouble for things, but he usually is very precise in his language. There have been things that I've seen.
He knows what he's doing. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Because he's been sanctioned for it. But there have been people who will promise this is going to this price. This is going to this price. When you do that, that is illegal. Now, again, how do you punish those people? I don't know. But I do feel like this is one of those things where, you're going to push stuff further underground and into Telegram and Discord groups. But I do feel like Philip's right. The regulators are going to come after this for no other reason than because they don't want, the little guy ripping them off.
The little guys are peeved.
Yeah, they are.
Because it looks like Wall Street is banding together to protect themselves against them by stopping the trading, by Robinhood saying you can only buy one share, by this regulators coming in if they do come in. That's just going to anger these guys who really think they've been sticking it to the man.
Right. Well, the funny thing is the man fights back. I mean, that's what upsets me about
which is a shame because, frankly, I want to stick it to the man. These billionaires deserve everything you can do to them. Of course.
But I mean, I think a couple things. One, Melvin Capital, no one cared about, right? Like they were a couple $1 billion hedge fund. That's an astronomical amount of money to you and I. I can't even imagine that much money. But that's that's not even on the radar, right?
No.
Like they
Stephen
got
Cohen could say, "Here's a couple of billion from his cigarette money." It didn't.
And so the part of Citadel that lent them money, Citadel doesn't care about Melvin. They're willing to let them go off, and I'm sure that the terms of that loan were very advantageous for Citadel, right? Nobody's going to be fundamentally trying to change the market because Melvin Capital or some of these other hedges lost money. It turned into this other thing. And I do agree with you that it is like the little guy trying to fight back. I think what concerns me, and I don't want to be a downer, is that as I said, the House does always win. The billionaires are going to band together, and people who have bought into this specific stock, maybe there's some other ones that are truly undervalued and you can do a different sort of short squeeze and you can make a better case for it. But people who are buying in, if you bought in right now at 325, if you're able to even execute your sell orders, which if you're a retail investor, you go last. You are not, so you don't even know what you're going to be able to sell at. A lot of people are going to be left holding the bag. If you got in really low, that's awesome. And I would, if it were me, I didn't invest. I didn't mess around with this, but if it were me, I would have already been out. No matter what potential future gains I would have had, I would have been out.
Everybody on Wall Street Bets is saying hold.
Of course they are. Of course they are. Yeah. Of course they are, because they want it to go to 1,000. They want it to have all these things, and it pays for them. I get that.
Could it create another 2008? I mean, could it really cause?
I'm worried.
The volume's not high enough. I don't think.
I'm worried though, because what they've done here is taken advantage of a social network and use it in the stock market. That hasn't been done before, and it's enormously powerful. Now, Scott Galloway had a good take on it, the NYU professor, who said, he admired this. This was very clever. And he said they're not really doing anything that the short sellers weren't doing. And if they're going to regulate these guys, they're going to have to regulate Wall Street too. They can't let the short sellers keep doing what they were doing, buying 140% of a stock, borrowing 140% of a stock. That's not right.
Right.
And in fact, because I follow the Apple crowd, they were very upset because we had these blowout earnings, and then the stock went down. And the reason the stock went down, it was an effect of the GameStop thing, because all the short sellers, they have to cover their shorts. They use Apple and the other big stocks that they've made a lot of money as ATM machines. They sell their winners to pay for these shorts. So that's the reason the whole market went down.
There could be
when this thing went up.
This could really cause a cataclysm in the markets.
I tell you, I've been reading. I just finished The Big Short, Michael Lewis's.
Wonderful.
Incredible. And I was getting the same vibe. It felt like credit default swaps all over again. There's something really big happening. It's not being regulated properly. It's out of control. And I fear there's something bad coming down the pike, and I don't know what it is.
The Big Short was Michael Lewis's book about the 2008 crash.
And there have been, because of what happened there were some regulation changes around naked short selling. But I mean, look, I agree. I think that the fact that you can short more than is available has been a big red flag. And if this is what it takes to close those sorts of loopholes, I think it's all about it. I'm not against
but don't you think what'll happen is that the regulation will impact Reddit, but not the hedge funds? Don't you think?
Well, it depends. Probably. I mean, I think we all know we're kind of in a rigged system, or we all should. But it might impact, some of the smaller hedges too. I mean, it might fundamentally change some of those things. I would say this though, and I'd be curious what Alex and Philip think of this. I don't think that after all this shakes out, and who knows how long it'll last, I don't know if this is the sort of thing that will be repeatable again. I do feel like there's going to be either regulation from the SEC, or more to the point, there are going to be rules that the market makers and that the brokerage firms take into account that will prevent this exact set of circumstances from ever occurring again. Not to say that there won't be bigger, maybe regulatory changes, but I feel like this is one of those.
How do you stop it?
Yeah. Well, the SEC steps in.
Yeah, but Alex, what does the SEC do? They say you can't post memes on Reddit.
Exactly.
They should ban the rocket ship emoji. I mean, what do they do?
One thing that we should talk about a little bit is what Robinhood did to the world of trading. Because if you go back to the old days, to the 80s, you would, I think, actually call your broker up and ask them to make a trade for you. And then we had discount brokers in the 90s that let you trade for $7, $8, $10 per trade, which at the time felt revolutionary because it was so much cheaper, so much faster. The everyday person could trade. Robinhood came along and said, well, now you can trade for free, and we'll give you access to options, which lets you make more highly leveraged
It's
bets.
so easy on Robinhood to risk everything by essentially playing on margin, right? So I've always been kind of against Robinhood because I think Robinhood takes advantage of investors who don't understand that, in effect, Robinhood's not the market maker. They go to a market maker.
Exactly.
And the market maker and Robinhood make money not on commission, but in a kind of more devious way on the spread. So you're not getting the best price for a stock.
Right.
So I've always felt like Robinhood kind of.
Well, and it gamifies things.
Shady.
Well, and it gamifies things. Yeah, and it gamifies things, I think, in a really bad way. I mean, I think you can argue, and I would argue, that zero fee trades are not a good thing. I think that it lowers the risk to a point where, or lowers the barrier to entry, where people are doing stuff that they shouldn't be doing.
But Alex, am I right that you're, in a way, it's expensive to use Robinhood? You'd be better off to use a pay commission. Am I wrong?
Yes
on that?
and no. Yes and no. So what we're talking about is payment for order flow. And the way Robinhood manages to offer you trades for $0 for no commission is that they then route those trades to different market makers who pay them for the volume.
Because they want to see all these trades because that's an insight into what the market's doing, and they can make money.
They see it a millisecond before, and that's long enough for them to get the other side of the trade. And
they do arbitrage on it. Is that right, Alex?
And if you and if you want to understand this better, there's another Michael Lewis book called Flash Boys, which I would recommend to everyone who wants to read into this. It's great. But now, for the average person, if you're going to go on Robinhood and buy 3 shares of Apple, 2 shares of IBM, and 1 share of Microsoft, just to make Christina happy, then you're totally fine. Because you're going to hold on to those for the next 5 years and whatever. If you lost a penny on one side of the trade or the other, it doesn't particularly matter.
Yeah.
But Robinhood doesn't make a lot of money on payment for order flow from trading well-known stocks. They make a little bit more money on trading less well-known stocks. And they make a lot of money on people trading options. Those are the things that get the most payment per trade in order flow. So Robinhood's torn between 2 things. One, offering people things that make them lots of money, aka options, and keeping their users protected from their own worst interests, which is kind of what options let you do, is make a lot of very large mistakes. The difference between now and a year ago, when we were all watching Wall Street Bets when it was just nerds losing money, is that it seems to be much more widespread. My friends are talking to me about this. People I don't even know are sending me DMs asking for advice about how to trade AMC stock. I mean, my gosh, that does scare me. So there's a question of access, there's a question of price, there's a question of who gets to do this, and then also the popularity of it. Which seems to be the new factor to me. And, Philip and Leo talking about regulation, maybe, but I don't know how you manage to put the cork back in the bottle of people wanting to do this when it's free.
And I think it flows around regulation. This is my overall concern, and it's not about the stock market. It's with this mob, these flash mobs that can be created so quickly, so powerfully by the new social media makes me very concerned. Today it's the stock market. Tomorrow it could be you or me. It could be let's all take down Exxon. I mean, it could be anything, right? Then it's very powerful. And I'll tell you, once you see people making all this money, whether they will make it or not, because who knows how deep effing value gets out of his position. But if they make a lot of money, then everybody goes, wow, and let's do that again. All you have to do is look at Bitcoin to see how this mentality self-propagates, right?
Well, it's interesting you mentioned Bitcoin because of have you guys followed the Dogecoin?
The Dogecoin,
stuff?
Same thing.
I almost got sucked into that, and then in the clear light of day, I was fortunately I was not able to get in and buy Dogecoin, and I'm so glad I didn't. But even me, who's been cautioning people about this, just because I see that I think so many regular people are going to lose their money, and that's what really concerns me. I don't care about the hedge funds; I care less about them. I care about regular people who are investing, at $200.
Yeah, but they're going to look at you and saying, "Oh, come on, we're sticking it to the man. We're going to make money." You just,
they're going to think that until they go broke, and that's
you just want to protect the status quo.
Well, I mean, I just don't want normal people who've bought in at $200 a share to lose all their money. That's my concern.
How much Dogecoin, John, did Father Robert have? He had 2 million Dogecoin.
Let's go see how much that's worth.
He sold it when it was worth $1,000. I mean, it cost him nothing, right? He felt happy to 1,000. That's the other problem. There's a couple of problems. You got to be able to sell. You got to know when to sell. You got to be able to do it. And finally, don't forget, you're going to be paying taxes on this come next April. So there's something else that I bet you some of these people have forgotten. I feel like there's a lot of naivete as well, right? Because anybody can do this. Go ahead, Alex.
There's a lot of naivete and also just a lot of risk. If you're listening to this and you're thinking about jumping in, probably don't. And I'm not here to give investment advice, but we're talking about people making the riskiest possible trades in pursuit of aggressive short-term gains. There is no such thing as a free lunch. You're probably late to the trade. By the time we hear about it we're probably too late. But most people don't listen to that. People are very greedy. And so people are going to make mistakes. And Christina's concerns of people losing their money is very real. It's all people making choices, so it's hard to be too mad about it. But don't put your rent money into options on Robinhood, please.
Okay, I'm going to ask all three of you, then we're going to move on. What happens next week? Alex, what happens next week?
So the crazy thing is, This could stay afloat longer than people think. There's an old joke that the market can stay irrational longer than you can stay solvent, and I think we could be in one of those situations. Alternatively, Monday morning it could crash to $4 a share. My only guess is that it's going to be very interesting to watch, and I'm going to be very busy again next week, which makes me mad in advance because I'm already tired. But
how many stories did you file this week on TechCrunch about this? I mean,
75 million stories
nonstop. What happens to Robinhood? Is this it for Robinhood? Are they out of business?
No, definitely not.
No.
This has been an enormous branding opportunity for Robinhood. So even though they've lost brand equity with their current user base, they shot to like the absolute top of the App Store. I mean, where does Robinhood want to be? At the top of the App Store.
Right.
So I think they're going to be okay. They have a lot of work to do to figure out their financials. And we didn't get into the money they just raised and why and all that. And it's a little bit technical, but they seem to have access to capital. They've never had a bigger brand, and the market seems to be moving in their direction. So the
reason, by the way, they said you can only buy one share is because there is a law requiring them to cover those purchases. So they need a certain amount of reserves. That's why they had to raise money to cover those purchases. It wasn't that they were trying to protect Wall Street or the hedge funds. No. They just couldn't buy as much stock as people wanted to buy because they didn't have the resources to do it.
Because they're not adequately capitalized to be in this game, frankly.
Right.
Basically the market, what's it called? GameStop has been turned into a cryptocurrency.
Yes.
So it's completely divorced from its value, from its fundamental value, and what it does in the market it could be anything. Nobody can predict.
Because there's nothing to tie it to. Any more than you could say Bitcoin will be at $40,000 or $5 tomorrow. There's nothing to tie it to. It's just whatever people pay. But isn't kind of the stock market that way anyway? We assume some sort of rationality. But except for dividends, the value of a stock is really just tied to what people will pay you for it, right?
Well, there is a fundamental value.
No, I know people say, I'm paying attention to fundamentals, and maybe that informs what people will pay for it. Although we've just had a very strong example of how it might not as well. I know in my mind, apparently Roaring Kitty was a value investor before this happened.
I think, Leo, you're making a good point. Like, we always joke that stocks are worth today the net present value of their future cash flows, or whatever the phrase is. It's a bit of a joke. We've seen, for example, in the world of technology companies, the value of software revenues go up dramatically.
Yeah.
And now for my friends who work at Microsoft, and I have
are very happy.
They're very happy because their stock's been going up quite nicely for several years now. But we don't know if these new higher prices for software revenues are going to be held by history or if they're going to go down back to kind of where they were. But certainly those gyrations will be minute and modest compared to what we've seen with deep effing value in GameStop and so forth. But
I compared
it fun.
I compared it, Philip, to poker. If you're a poker professional and you sit down at a table, it's a little bit easier to play other experts because you could say, oh, he's tight, he's loose. You can start to figure out what every person's strategy. But somebody like me comes and sits down at the table who has no idea what he's doing is actually scary because I'm unpredictable. I could bet up a hand. If I have enough chips, I'm scary. And I think that's kind of what's going on right now is the professionals who say, no, you got to look at market fundamentals. You got to look at are going, oh my God, these are crazy people. They're crazy people. And there are a lot of them, so many that they've completely moved this market. That's got to scare the hell out of them.
No, Leo, when you sit down at the poker table, when you leave, they'll have your chips. They'll figure you out.
It's like in Rounders. Look around.
Have you seen me play, Philip?
If you don't know who the fish is, then you're the fish.
You don't know who the markets you are. Yeah.
So, Philip, what you say it's unpredictable. We don't know what's going to happen next week.
Right. It's a cryptocurrency.
Christina, what do you think? What's going to happen next week? SEC going to move in. Martha Stewart's going to go to jail. What's going to happen next week?
I mean, that is sort of the funny thing, right? Martha went to jail essentially for she took a plea.
For the teeniest, weeniest insider trading.
It's for the dumbest thing ever, but she took a plea and she didn't want to hurt her business. She's hardcore, but I have no idea. I really thought that this would have dropped off already, so I'm not even going to make any predictions. I'm with Philip and Alex. Like, this is just so unpredictable. it could fall. It could continue to rise. It could fall apart Monday morning. I think it'll be really interesting. I think I will only I'll push back on. I do think there's a slight difference between some of this and like a cryptocurrency. At this point, I do feel like fairly or unfairly, Bitcoin has proven some sort of value, whether it's the value that it currently has amassed or not. I don't know, but there has been people who are willing to give it some sort of inherent level of value. Whereas I look at something like GameStop and it really does seem to be fueled by the mob who were wanting to stick it to the man who's trying to make money on the edges, and then just the cultural, insanity of the moment where even people who don't have any sort of, persuasion one way or another are not wanting to be left out, the YOLO factor. So I have no idea, honestly.
I think it's really interesting that Wall Street Bets is saying hold.
Well, of course they are. And I think that the people should be careful listening to anybody on the internet about like what financial decisions they should make. And that includes obviously all of us, and none of us are financial advisors,
Preach.
but I think that anybody should be really careful about like taking advice from these things. I also think like Roaring Kitty, this was clever, genius, right? And I don't begrudge him in the slightest. I am a little bit uncomfortable with some of the other people that I've seen who are making promises and are trying to get the mob to either force people into positions or keep them from making decisions that could be in their best interest. But I mean, Alex points out people have, can make their personal choices. It will be interesting, I think, to see what happens with Robinhood. I agree with Alex insofar as I think that, this has been a great branding exercise for them. I also wonder what this does in terms of like their long-term, like if this will be some sort of black mark for some of their users. And I just don't know. I'm not a fan of Robinhood. I was pretty against them when they did the whole fake checking account scandal. That was one of those things where to me, I was like, this is a scummy place. I don't like how easy they make it to work with options, but I can't deny that they've had a fundamental impact on how people are making trades that is more than likely going to outlast all of this and potentially be something that we see impacts from years into the future.
According to Robinhood, it's seeing about 56% hold right now on GameStop. I guess if you really care about this stuff, you follow it closely and you figure it all out. I can't pretend to have any idea what's going on, and I'm just really glad that I have some mutual funds in my retirement, and that's it, and that's all. So somebody keeps asking, does this turn GameStop into a viable company somehow?
No.
They don't get anything out of this. Maybe the executives.
That's the worst part of this.
If the executives had some stock and they sold it, they might have made some money. Maybe I don't know if employees had stock, but it's not like next year GameStop is suddenly going to be, every shop's going to be lined with gold or anything. It's not going to make any difference to them at all.
No, although it's interesting, AMC was able to take some advantage of this. AMC, some of their debt collectors,
they were able to borrow.
Whatever,
yeah, they were able to borrow.
They erased like $500 million in debt, which was good. And then there were some BlackBerry executives who did sell. They more than likely had orders set to sell when it hit a certain price. So some of those executives were able to make trades. GameStop, though, it's kind of sad. It's like
there's nothing they can do. Yeah.
There's nothing they can do, and they're the hedge fund that owned it. This predated all of this. There was a South Korean hedge fund that owned like 5% of GameStop, and they sold their whole position. So there has been some movement in that. I don't know, but that is kind of, to me, that's sort of the sad part, is that you have this failing company who has a lot of fundamental problems, who has a lot of debt, and who their stock is now high flying, and it doesn't seem like they're going to have any way to benefit from this.
I'm actually glad that AMC, which has been a beleaguered movie chain this close to bankruptcy, that COVID just practically has put them out of business, was able to use this to actually buy themselves some time. And
me too.
And they may well survive, which is great, because I want to go to the movies when this is all over.
Same.
Yeah, so at least there's something good came out of it.
I'm just so glad I'm finally on Twit, and we're talking about something that I understand. I come on here and everyone's like, we're going to talk about cybersecurity for 2 hours, and I'm like, oh no, I'm on the wrong week. Finally,
you're on the right week, baby.
I'm so happy.
You are.
I was talking about Apple, so I can be quiet for half an hour.
No. I'm thrilled to have all three of you. Alex Wilhelm, of course, from TechCrunch, Christina Warren, who for years covered Apple, but she's now working at Microsoft as a senior cloud advisor or advocate. And Philip Elmer DeWitt, who is kind of the dean of Apple journalists, PED30.com. And we will get to Apple.
Old guy.
The old guy. The dean just means the old guy, doesn't it?
Yeah. You and me.
We're the old guys. and city councilor. Let's not forget that in Greenfield, Massachusetts. So, he's got some Esquire. He's some Your Honor. I'll call you Your Honor from now on. Our show today brought to you by Mint Mobile. If you want to save money, just look at your cell phone bill. It's kind of shocking. I bet you a lot of us, we just don't even look at it because we know it's way out of control. It's like breathtaking sometimes. This is a great time to save some money by getting rid of that crazy cell phone bill and go to Mint Mobile. Why are you still spending insane amounts of money for wireless when you could switch, get premium wireless service? You won't even, when I tell you the price, you're going to think you misheard it. Unlimited nationwide talk, unlimited nationwide text, high-speed 5 or 4G data, depending on your phone and where you are, as low as $15 a month. You didn't hear that wrong, $15 a month. By going online only, eliminating the retail stores, the brick and mortar, Mint Mobile, it can save a ton of money, and they pass that along to you. You can bring your own phone if you want. They've got a little checker on the website. You can see if your phone's compatible. If it works with T-Mobile, it is. Then they'll send you a SIM at no cost. I love that. Everybody else charges you. Put it in there. All your phone is the same. You keep your contacts. You can even transfer your phone number over, port it over, easy peasy. And of course, if you're not 100% satisfied, Mint Mobile has you covered with a 7-day money-back guarantee. Mint Mobile is kind of amazing. I did the $15 introductory plan for a while. Liked it so much, I said, okay, I'm gonna get the $300 plan. That's $300 for a year. So I pay $25 a month, and I get 12 gigabytes of data a month. I never go through that. They even have an unlimited plan, just a little bit more, but a lot less than you're paying now. I'm actually paying a third what I was paying T-Mobile. Get your new wireless plan for just $15 a month. Get the plan shipped to your door for free. They have great phones, too. If you want an iPhone SE, you get a great price. Cut your wireless bill to as low as $15 a month. Go to mintmobile.com/twit. Mintmobile.com/twit. Premium wireless for $15 a month. Unlimited talk and text. High-speed data on the nation's largest 5G network. Mintmobile.com/twit. Thank you, Mint Mobile, for supporting Twit. Thank you for supporting Twit by using that special address. $15 a month. Mintmobile.com/twit. I just got to ask, why would anybody pay more? That's an amazing deal. I kind of want to keep talking about GameStop. It's kind of infinitely fascinating to me.
There's no shortage of topics on it because it's social, it's modern fintech, it's the little guy versus the big guy. Everyone in Congress is talking about it. I mean, it's made CNBC interesting. I mean, what can this one story not do? There's something literally for everybody. It's perfect.
There's nothing this story can't do.
It's going to be an amazing HBO series.
Oh, God, yeah.
The AOC Twitter exchange with that horrible Texas senator I won't even name. Did you see that?
Yeah,
yes.
I did.
She said we have to do something about this. He said I completely agree, and she said I don't need any help from someone who's trying to murder me.
Did you see? Actually, AOC. This is, I thought, a very interesting trend. Congresswoman Alexander. It's easier to say AOC, isn't it? Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez on Twitch, talking GameStop and Reddit. With the YouTuber, the stock guy, 3 hours, 300,000 people watched, even though about half of it was trying to figure out why her camera wouldn't focus.
Right.
She's one of us. She's having tech problems with her live stream setup.
Honestly, I think in a way that's actually good, right? She looks like a normal person, which she is.
Yeah, I mean, Leo, she played what's that game that was popular? Among Us.
Among Us,
on Switch a month or two ago, and like everyone turned out. AOC is a wizard of using modern communication tools to resonate with kind of the population. Like her politics or not, I don't know why people keep trying to dunk on her on Twitter like the senator did, because it consistently blows up in their face, and they keep doing it.
Yeah, she owns Twitter
4 times.
Yeah, don't mess with AOC on Twitter. So actually, Jessica Lesson in the information, it's behind a paywall, so probably I'm the only one who read it. But it says the nightmare awaiting the news industry. She talks about this. She says, as journalists, we should start being worried because you know what's happening, and Trump certainly was brilliant at this. Politicians are going straight to the people. No intermediation. They're going straight to the people. And they're talking about what they want to talk about, true or false. No one's there to intermediate, to say, oh, wait a minute, that's not true. Nothing, which could be good or bad. She says most people are going to get information directly from the source with no chance for journalists or even non-journalists to push back and question them. The result is propaganda, not news. It's everywhere. She also says, I'm worried about how readers, and now this is, some might say old media, although Jessica Lesson is not exactly old media. She's old media like Alex Wilhelm is old media. But
ouch.
Or I'm old media. I qualify. But this is interesting. I think it's more than that. She says, I'm worried about how readers and listeners are going to decide who to get their information from. I fear they're going to be wooed by personality, influenced by their own belief system. This is me again, being a little Chicken Little, saying, these are larger trends that worry me a little bit. On the other hand, I think it's kind of interesting. The president was able to talk directly for 4 years, directly to his constituency. It proved an incredibly valuable tool for him. Now AOC is starting to use Twitch to talk directly to not just her New York constituency, but to a national audience. And if somebody has national aspirations, I'm sure she does, this is extremely powerful. And it kind of says out of the way. And I think we're moving to the news organization. I think we're moving in that direction. I think people are getting more and more disgruntled with mainstream media, aren't they? Is it something to be concerned about, Philip?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, mainstream media lost its business when they lost their classified advertising. So it's like an already weakened beast. I'll give you an example. Small town newspaper. We still have one in Greenfield, the Greenfield Recorder, and they cover the news but they're so slow and it's like done in the letters and they miss big stories. All the actual political conversation is going on in Facebook, and it's not a good thing because the town has divided into the Trumpies are in one board and all the liberals on another, and they don't talk to each other. Trump was able to talk directly to the people, and look how that turned out.
Well, it just depends, right, on who it is. I mean, you might, if you like Trump, be happy about that. If you like AOC, you might be happy about that. I'm a little worried. Do you still have a city council reporter on the Greenfield Recorder? Is there somebody who sits in the meetings? Because we don't have one in Petaluma.
We don't have meetings. We have
Zooms.
WebEx.
You have Zoom calls.
and the reporter shows
WebEx.
up.
Reporters do show up, but you're lucky.
They show up for the big one.
You're lucky because I think there are a lot of towns that nobody's covering that local news. Somebody was telling me, and I think it's probably true, that sites like Nextdoor.com are becoming the news sources for small towns, for neighborhoods. And
I started the Nextdoor in Park Slope, Brooklyn. And I still get messages saying, would you please adjudicate this thing? People are complaining that someone is becoming political on Nextdoor. I'm leaving it alone, but more and more of those complaints are surfacing. People are using Nextdoor to out or to accuse or to shut down their neighbor. And
there's
I'm not sure that's new,
in some places there's overt racism. There was a black guy walking in my neighborhood last night, and it can actually turn into a tinderbox, this stuff. So I'm not going to be the guy who's going to defend the old way of doing things. I mean, when the internet started, I'm sure you remember this, Philip, we were all very excited about the democratic nature of it. Everybody's going to get a voice, the free flow of information. This is all going to be very positive. And that's kind of what we're seeing, but it isn't always positive. I don't want to go back to the gatekeepers. That's not the way to solve this.
I feel terrible.
Yeah, it's not.
I feel terrible about the promoting I did of the internet at Time Magazine. We did cover stories about
our generation, Philip, has such guilt.
and to see what it turned into, I don't know what to say. It's terrible. It's terrible.
Philip, can I try to make you feel better? Because I think a little perspective here is going to make us all a little bit happier. One, to Leo's point about AOC on Twitch, to me, this feels like presidents on radio back in the day.
Yes.
It feels super
That's
different,
why Roosevelt did his fireside chats. He wanted to talk directly to the people, and it was very effective.
And thinking about what's going to happen to local media, we're going to eventually, as a society, figure something out. I don't know what that's going to be. But the internet gave everyone a voice. And it turns out many people are very dumb, and they use their voice to say dumb things. That's not really new. We're just hearing more from those people.
I'm so worried. There was the vaccination program in Los Angeles at Dodger Stadium yesterday was shut down by anti-vaxxers who organized, no doubt, online, who actually went and blocked the entrance. And they actually stopped people from getting vaccines. That scares the hell out of me.
I agree with that entirely. Now, the optimistic thing that I want to bring up, though, is that think about what the internet has brought us. We are currently mostly at home. Leo, I know you're in the studio. I'm very jealous you get to leave the house. But the internet has brought us together during this time that would have been
I agree.
Fantastically dull.
If we imagine. More than dull. People would have been in solitary confinement. There would have been suicides. There would have been nut cases. There would have been axe murders. There would have been all sorts of problems.
Much worse than we're currently seeing. And also the internet has allowed for a wave of creativity in music and film and short video and poetry and even things like fanfic. And so there's been a brilliant amount of creative freedom that I think we take for granted when we discuss the negative things the internet has brought to us in terms of mass communication and so forth. But here's the flip that I want to throw in, and then I'll shut up. But we talk a lot about going gatekeeper free. And inside the technology media where I live, there's a lot of discussions about venture capitalists going directly to their quote audience and bypassing the journalistic, media entirely. And people ask me about this. And the short answer is it's a very small minority of people that have the pull to be able to go around the gatekeepers and generate their own footprint. It's AOC in Congress. It's Andreessen Horowitz in the venture capital community. It's Elon Musk in the car community, et cetera. It's a very small number of people.
So it's still I don't think the big voices. But then there's people like Roaring Kitty or, name any YouTuber. There's lots of small people who have got a big voice, outsized voice all of a sudden.
Yeah, but to get there, it's rare, right? Like, it's not a guaranteed thing, I think. It's like anything else, is that you have the few who get lucky or who are able to, capture the attention and kind of jump on that rocket ship. And I mean, that's, to be fair, that's true of like traditional kind of media places too, right? There are plenty of people who want to be that, voice of record and aren't, right? And so a lot of it I think that you have the ability to maybe have that happen, but the chances of it happening are still extremely small.
The Andreessen Horowitz story is interesting. A lesson pulls that up in the information, too. You're talking, Alex, about the fact that this big venture capital firm, which is run partly by Mark Andreessen, the guy who created Netscape, has decided, screw it. We're just going to publish our own stuff, our own podcasts, our own stories. We're going to become a media company. And
well, it's not a media company in the way that you and I think about it, Leo. What they're doing is building a very large kind of like paid publication for themselves. And so it's going to be always positive about their stuff. It's going to represent their point of view.
But I think people might read it thinking it's journalism when it's not. It's actually flacking their investments, presumably, right?
How media ignorant is the average person or media illiterate? And I don't know the answer to that. I'm not making a rhetorical point. I actually don't know. Are people going to be unable to discern the difference between Andreessen talking up their own book, which is fine, doesn't bother me, and not to be mean, but what I do all day? If they can't, am I failing or are they dumb?
I think they can tell the difference. I think you're right. I hope.
I mean, if not, idiocracy, here we come. if media literacy is that low. And then, and this brings us back to the whole GameStop thing about being able to trust online information. But if people are that stupid, maybe we deserve what we get. Maybe we failed ourselves. Maybe this is... I'm
not going to be that fatalistic. I think we could try to make it better.
All right.
We're all screwed. You deserve it. Have a great life. Bye-bye.
I was trying to be positive, and then we gave me up here, and I realized I flipped sides.
No.
Philip should do something else.
No, but and Jeff Jarvis would normally take this role on Twig, which is very important to say, look, there's so much benefit from the internet. You know what? The internet is just like life. It's made of people. People can be horrifically awful. They can be angelically, amazingly beautiful. And sometimes it's the same person 1 minute to the next. That's how life is. And so I wouldn't expect the internet to be any different. It's just, it scares me because it's so powerful.
It's a huge amplifier.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it scary.
Yeah, I agree. Maybe it's just us old guys that are worried about it. Alex and Christina are...
they love it.
They're digital natives.
Well, we don't really know. We don't really remember. I mean, we remember the world before it, but we don't, right? Like we interacted with the world before the internet, but like we came of age online. Like I literally like grew up online. So, and Alex is younger than me, so he did too. So I think that, and then there are kids now who literally, and there's a generation of them already. They're in college who literally, were born and didn't have access to any of this stuff. So
interestingly, at least I look at my 18-year-old, they don't, and actually even my 20-somethings, they don't watch TV. Excuse me. They watch YouTube.
Right.
Yeah. Their media diet is completely different. Unrecognizably different. Even from yours, Christina and Alex.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think Alex and I, we have to like keep up with like the youths. You know what I mean? Like we have to like kind of get ourselves into that mode. At least I do. Alex might not. He might be like totally native and hip with it. But like I definitely have to be. I have to like stay on my toes. I have to like stay on my toes to be, on up to date. I don't even try with TikTok. I have my own versions of TikTok that I'm into, but I don't even try, with the various versions and stuff. But I watch a lot of YouTube and I talk to friends of mine who have younger kids or kids who are teenagers and hear about the stuff that they're doing and watching. And it is completely different than the sorts of stuff I interact with. But
do you think QAnon would be as widespread and as powerful if it weren't for Facebook?
No.
Agreed.
It wasn't the invention of mass panic, right? I mean, like we've had mass panics before.
Okay. No, conspiracy theories are nothing new.
No. Here's what's different about Facebook is that Facebook, with the death of the of the chronological feed and the moving into algorithms that recommend you similar content and the reinforcement loop of showing you the same types of things over and over again. That's, I think, the difference. And that's the thing I think that, we should be critical of big tech for. It's not so much the fact that the platform or the mediums have been used to spread messages that have existed since the dawn of time. It's the fact that they have started to reinforce those messages by changing the way the algorithm works to double down on engagement, because that's what their investors or other people wanted to see from them as opposed to anything else. And that has had, I think, some pretty catastrophic circumstances. I mean, and it's not just QAnon. I mean, even you look at like the actual genocide and the things that happened in Myanmar, which Facebook aided with, right? And again, it comes down to the algorithm and reinforcing and showing more and more of that information. You can see it with what was happening on WhatsApp in India and that sort of thing. And that, I think, is the thing that is dangerous, not so much that Facebook exists and that you have this platform. It's when you have these platforms which on the one hand claim to not have a finger on like the scale, but on the other hand, they absolutely do by optimizing for engagement and reinforcing, whatever your persuasion is one way or another. And that's something we haven't seen to this degree that we didn't have even with cable news, right? It's like you didn't have an always changing, cable news diet where as you're watching it, you had to change channels if you wanted to see a different perspective. It wasn't as if you can keep it on one channel and it'll continue to show you the same things over and over again, bringing you into different types of content and different types of feeds that you might not have been exposed to or been drawn to otherwise.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question about that? The engagement algorithm. Google and Facebook are in the spotlight in Washington now. Do you think the engagement algorithms are going to be tampered with by government?
I don't know. I mean,
that's certainly one fix would be to say turn off the algorithms. I mean, I think if you look at YouTube and Facebook, the trouble they get into, a lot of it seems to me to come from the fact that they're optimizing for engagement, that the algorithm is optimizing for engagement. If you turned off the algorithm, Facebook would be what we were told it was, which is our friends and family and the things they post. And that's what you would kind of want Facebook to be. It's not that because of the algorithm. YouTube's recommendation engine is reprehensible, I think, in a lot of cases. So,
I mean, I'll say this. I would be much more comfortable if that were the direction that the government went in than the attempts to either breaking them up or to me, the bigger concern is trying to repeal Section 230. Repealing Section 230 is to me bad for everyone. And that seems to be the direction people want to go in, saying, oh, well, this is how we stop this information. I don't think it is. I also think it's dangerous on lots of levels. So if there were going to be government intervention, and I'm always kind of wary of it because I don't think that our politicians understand tech well enough at all, I would be much more open to them having to change or shut down the algorithms rather than repealing 230 and then, forcing a much heavier hand in what sorts of content can be posted. Because I'm not opposed to the content existing. I'm opposed to the content being shown to you and reinforced over and over again. Exactly.
And reinforced, yeah. There have been some, and I think this is really interesting. In fact, Twitter's moving along this line, who've suggested that what government should do is open your APIs. Twitter's looking at the idea of federating. This would solve the Twitter problem, in my opinion. By which I mean other people could run Twitters, and you could be on somebody's Twitter and follow other people on other people's Twitter. This is kind of what Mastodon is. If Twitter opened up their API and allowed federation, if Facebook opened up their API and there could be many Facebooks, I think that by itself would fix the problem. But to mandate that would be, from the government's point of view, really putting your fingers in the gears. I mean, you'd essentially devalue those multi-billion-dollar companies tremendously.
It's more than that, Leo. You would kill TikTok. Yesterday, I have a friend who's on TikTok, and she makes TikToks, and I'm a fan of hers. I log on occasionally just to watch her stuff. Love it. And I was showing my spouse this, and I pulled up my phone, and I just clicked on TikTok, and she'd never seen it before. And if you don't know, TikTok just starts playing videos for you. Like you open it up, and it starts.
It's all algorithmic.
Right. And she was like, wait, did we pick that? I'm like, no, it's just the way it works. TikTok is an algorithm that people have plugged content into. And so if you take away the algorithm, TikTok becomes, I don't know what, bad YouTube? Like it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And so when we talk about this sort of thing, it's hard to think about the more modern platforms being de-algorithmed, because Facebook used to be time series like Twitter used to be. And modern stuff isn't like that. So I don't know what the internet and the app economy looks like sans an algorithm, but at a minimum, telling people how these algorithms work seems like a reasonable step.
Open up an API.
I say no to.
So you could have the algorithm. Yeah, but I don't have a problem with making TikTok less compelling or YouTube yet less compelling if the way they are being compelling is by this kind of algorithmic escalation. I don't have a problem with that. I mean, if whoever controls the algorithm has huge power, and if you're worried about TikTok as the government used to be, I don't know what the current status of TikTok is, but if you're worried about the Chinese government using TikTok to propagandize the youths of America, the way they would do it is through the algorithm, right? So I
think they were worried about TikTok sucking up your
data,
your email address.
Worse than Facebook.
No, I think TikTok was a pawn in a trade war.
No, that's really what it was. Yeah,
honestly, I think that's really what it was. It was a pawn in a trade war, and then people lost interest, and who knows even how it was all resolved. So,
I think.
Do you guys remember that time when all of a sudden Trump decided that he was going to make them sell TikTok, and he demanded that the U.S. Treasury get an enormous cut?
Yep.
He wanted a cut.
It was the biggest story in the world for weeks, and then all of a sudden he forgot about it because something else happened, and then we just stopped talking about it.
I don't know about you, but I'm still suffering PTSD from the last 4 years. I'd appreciate it if you don't remind me. Could you do a trigger warning next time?
Content warning, everybody. I'm going to make a Trump joke.
Seriously.
My gosh. It has been it's been a couple of years, guys. Yeah. It's been hard. We're all very tired.
All right, let's take a little break. I do want to get to the Apple results. We'll do that next. Philip Elmer DeWitt's here. He is the Dean of Apple Journalism and a city council member. He is also at ped30.com, his website. Has that been going well?
Yes, and if you want, I can tell you about my business model and how it's changed.
I would love to hear about that. This was a big deal. You left mainstream media, Fortune, and said, I'm going to do my own thing. And, that's what Jessica Lesson did. In a way, I guess that's what I've done. And that's a ballsy thing to do. It's a tough thing to do. I'm just glad to hear it. You were 28 years at Time Magazine.
Yep.
I'm just glad to hear that it's going well. Yeah, we'll talk about it in a little bit. Christina Warren's here. She did another gutsy thing. She left New York City, moved to Seattle, got run over by a bus. But she's a survivor. She's a survivor. Senior cloud advocate at Microsoft. She wears the best sneakers you've ever seen. Are you wearing some now? Are you wearing some?
No, I'm barefoot right now.
No off-whites? No Jordan off-whites?
No off-whites right now. No, I'm barefoot right now. I'll put them on afterwards and put them on Instagram or something. I feel like
my quarantine outfit should be Yeezy slides, maybe some sweats. Yeah, I could be pretty relaxed. Yeah. Wearing $7,000 rubber shoes. And also with us, Alex Wilhelm. He is at TechCrunch. I love all three of you. Somebody in the chat room saying this is a great panel for Twit, and I agree. Really, truth is, I don't do these shows for you, ladies and gentlemen. I do them for me. I just like to get together with some really interesting people and talk about stuff. I'm just glad you like to listen in. I appreciate it. We're also glad we have some great sponsors like this company. I want to give them a huge plug. Do you know that the average amount of time it takes for a company to realize that there has been a data breach, that there are bad guys in the network, the average is 191 days. That's 6 months. Surely there's a better way. There is. The Thinkst Canary. It's a honeypot that's easy to install, easy to set up, and a remarkable tool because it doesn't look like some little vulnerable thing on your network. It looks like it's real, a valuable router or switch or NAS server or Windows server or Linux box. It is awesome. We have one in the studio that's set up as a Synology NAS, and it has a MAC address that's a Synology MAC address. It has the Synology login page. It looks completely real. But the minute a bad guy tries to log in or opens a file or browses the Active Directory and explores file shares, boom, I get an alert that I can act upon right away, and I get the alert the way I want it. No false alarms. You get alerts by email or text message. There's a Canary console. You can set it up with Slack. It supports webhooks, which means you can set it up with practically anything. There's a syslog. I mean, you can have it right to your syslog. There's even an API. So you get to get those alerts the way you want it. But this is the point. Never again will a bad guy roam your network without your knowledge. This is so key. There are canaries on all 7 continents. That'll tell you something right there, including Antarctica. They're all over the world. These guys behind the canary have been doing security for a couple of decades. They've trained companies and militaries and governments on how to break into networks. So they're really experts on this stuff. And so they built something that's just going to be so juicy for that bad guy. You could put fake files on them. You can enroll them in Active Directory. When you have a canary, you can even generate canary tokens. Actually, you could do it for free from their website, but I use the canary to do this. Tiny tripwires. They can look like PDFs or Word documents. I have some Excel spreadsheets that say things like employee payroll information spread around. The minute somebody opens them, boom, I get that alert. They're all designed to be trivial to deploy with a ridiculously high quality of signal. It's exactly what you want. Canary, right now, I want you to go to canary.tools/twit, canary.tools/twit. You're going to get a special deal. I'll give you an example. You know, some companies have thousands, some companies have a dozen, some companies like ours have one. Or at least that's all I'm admitting to. Let's say you wanted 5. That's a reasonable start. $7,500 a year. You get your own hosted console. You get upgrades automatically. You get support, maintenance. Anything goes wrong with your Canary, if you sit on it, it's just a little box about the size of your smartphone. You sit on it, you break it, they just send you another one. If you use the code TWIT in the How Did You Hear About Us box, 10% off that price forever. Forever. And we know you're going to love your Canary. Although I have to say the best thing about the Canary is when it doesn't say anything at all, because that means you're okay. If you're not happy, though, you can return your Canaries. They have a 2-month money-back guarantee. So for a full refund, that is a really great deal. 2 months Canary refund. If for any reason you're not thrilled with it, this is such an important security device. Every company should have them. Some banks have hundreds. Canary.tools/twit. Enter the code TWIT in the How Did You Hear About Us box for that very nice 10% off forever. Forever. I love them. Canary.tools/twit. Very important part of your layered security in your enterprise. Speaking of stocks, Apple stock went through the roof when everybody bought on the rumor, and then the news came out and it plummeted a little bit, right? But it was a very good quarter for their holiday results, right?
It crushed Wall Street's estimates. There's a lot of great charts. If you go to 5 Easy Charts and scroll down, if you can pull that up, because they basically beat in every category in every country. The most bullish Wall Street estimates got blown away. And the stock actually didn't go up. Yeah, here we go. These are interactive. So, for example, quarterly revenue, and then you hit the up top there next to revenue, the year-over-year increase. Then you get to see the percentage change. Is this the right? No, you've got the wrong quarter.
Right, this is really wrong because this is Q4, which was a crappy quarter because they didn't have anything. Yeah, their fiscal quarter ends. I'll go to the front page. It'll probably be in the latest post. Their fiscal quarter ends this quarter. This is Q1. So the fiscal quarter ends in September, and the fiscal year ends in September. So this is the first quarter of their new fiscal year, which is the important one: October, November, December, and it's when the new phones are out, the new Macs are out, the new everything is out. So let me get
the phones were a little late this year, but that didn't change sales. And China, which is very sensitive to a change. They always want to be able to show off that they have the latest phone. So if the new phone looks like the old phone, they don't want it. China also has a very their 5G network is completely deployed, so they're ready for these chips. We don't have to see the charts, but
unfortunately. Yeah, maybe I just clicked on or I don't know what's going on here. Maybe you got the wrong chart in the article.
Maybe I got the wrong chart. Well, let's see.
Q1, here it is. Here it is. Yeah. You know what? Yeah. I did something wrong. So year-over-year change, whoa, it's the biggest ever, 21% growth from last year to this year.
That's their revenue. The next one is earnings per share, which is propped up because whenever the stock goes down, they just buy more truck and buy more. Yeah.
It's nice to have cash. Yeah. Which, by the way, we should. I mean, as long as we're talking stock market, let me ask you, Alex. When a company buys its own stock, doesn't it kind of artificially pump up the price?
Well, it constrains the total shares that are available.
It's good for investors because your share is worth more, right?
Right, because you have the same amount of earnings with fewer shares, so earnings per share go up. Also keep in mind that companies often compensate their employees with stock. So there's a kind of a standard increase in the number of shares that are in the market. So you use some cash to mitigate that, even reduce the number of shares out there. Normally, this is not that big of an impact. IBM over time has paid more money for its stock through repurchases than the company is currently worth. So there's some ironic moments out there.
Apple spent hundreds of billions of dollars in buybacks, right? I mean,
but Apple's worth $2.4 trillion.
Right.
So,
but
good luck.
So you wouldn't say that that's partly because of the buybacks?
It is. No. Well, no.
It's not entirely the fundamentals.
The company's value should be the same regardless of the number of shares. It would just change the per share amount.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
The per share value. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Your stock price went up because you bought a lot of stock.
But if the price times the number of shares is flat.
Right. Yeah. So your earnings per share go up, but your market capitalization doesn't change.
In theory.
Well, except their market cap has been going up. I mean, they're firing on all cylinders. And
I'm not downplaying the Apple stock. I learned my lesson. About 8 years ago, I was at Thanksgiving with my dad and my half brother, and I said, "Oh, you should dump the Apple stock." This actually, no, it was 11 years ago. It was after Steve Jobs died. I said, "You should dump that Apple stock because it's all over for Apple." And every Thanksgiving, Dad sends me a note saying, "I didn't sell it. You were wrong."
Does he call you from his helicopter above his yacht?
He drives up in his Rolls Royce and throws it out at the window at me. So they've obviously done very well for themselves.
Yeah, I used to hear the guys on CNBC talk about the law of large numbers, which they had totally wrong because it's about something else entirely. But their theory was that Apple was so big that it couldn't grow double digits anymore because it just gets harder.
You saturate the market. Everybody's going to buy an iPhone, got an iPhone.
Yeah, but then they want the new one. And also, now they're buying the watch and they're buying the AirPods and they've got a Mac. And, once you're in the walled garden, I don't want to say this to someone who works for Microsoft, but...
I don't care. I'm an Apple user. Come on. I'm on an iMac. I have an Apple Watch. I have an iPhone. I have an iPad.
Yeah. She loves Apple. Yeah. There's no question.
This is Satya's Microsoft, not Ballmer's Microsoft.
Yeah, right.
Exactly.
That's right. Big difference. Yeah, if Ballmer saw you with an iPhone in the audience, he'd take it and stomp on it.
Right.
He actually did that.
I wouldn't have worked at Microsoft then, to be totally honest.
No, that's right. But Satya is, wherever our customers are, that's where we'll be. The big one from the point of view of saturation is services, and you show this year over year. This has been a very big, look how steady this growth is in revenue and services. Now $15.8 billion. And that's what Apple's trying to do, right, is increase the amount of money they make per customer.
Both,
that's where the growth is.
They now have more than a billion iPhones out there. So that's just a way to print money. And what's different with Apple than Facebook or Twitter is that they have credit cards for each of those people.
Brilliant.
So
brilliant.
They can,
I buy stuff with my Apple card because it's so easy all the time. Just because it's easy, because it's just a fingerprint away.
Horace Dedu had a chart. He showed that if you forget the phone and just look at the services and the wearables and stuff right now, and you draw a line, they make about as much money from the wearables and the services as they made from everything in 2012.
Right.
That's kind of amazing. Less than 10 years later.
No, I mean, seeing the services pivot has been really interesting because once they stopped reporting numbers of devices sold and really started to pivot into the service area for growth, that has very quickly, ramped up and become a bigger and bigger part of the business. And it's unreal. I mean, wearables, obviously, I think the watch, massive success when they pivoted that from being about fashion to being about fitness and health was huge. But the AirPods have been just unprecedented level of success. I can't think of anything. I mean, they're kind of like the new iPod, if you think about it. So it's remarkable to think that a decade ago, they're doing as much revenue just in those two categories as they were doing with everything. And a decade ago, Apple was like most valuable company in the world. So that's unreal.
We're very retro here because we don't have AirPods on.
Thank goodness. I see them on TV all the time.
Yeah, it kills me, honestly.
They're not good.
Non-stop.
They're not good for this. But let me guys tell you something. So currently I have 3 sets of AirPods of varying levels of battery failure.
Yes.
And so I need to get a new pair.
Yes.
And I'm going to have 4 pairs.
Yep.
I need to buy a new Apple Magic Mouse because I broke mine.
Yep.
and I need to get an iPad. And I'm just looking around my Apple device collection. I'm like, how do I need more of these darn things? And yet I kind of do. And I'm amazed at how much of my money Apple is going to take this year alone, because I also want to get an Apple Watch. And it kind of hurts my soul a little bit. I just can't believe how much money I have to give the company, but I do want and need all their stuff. So
the thing that I'm encouraged,
Apple, you win.
Well, you said actually they're firing on all cylinders, which is exactly what I take away from this quarter, because Mac sales were up, best they'd been in a long time. iPad sales were up, best they've been practically since the iPad came out, since 2012 anyway. iPhone sales through the roof. They are, every one of their products, services, just doing really, really well. That bodes pretty well for a company. Most of their money is still from iPhone, but it used to be like 3/4. It's down to 59%. I'm looking at Jason Snell's. He does those color charts. Yeah, I love them. Yep. To your point, Christina, wearables is now 12%. And of course, the rumor is, and we're going to talk about this in a second, that Apple is about to release augmented reality glasses, another category of wearable. So it'll be watch, AirPods, and now glasses. That could end up meaning that wearables become as important as iPhone. I'm thrilled that the Mac is doing well, because their new chips, I think they're going to eat the world. I think that their new chips are so good that they've got everybody else in retreat.
Horace Dedew thinks that Apple itself was surprised how strong those chips are.
Really?
And now the whole company now is thinking, oh boy, what can we do with this kind of power?
Yeah, I mean, essentially these were overpowered chips designed for an iPhone and iPad. I got the iPad Pro and I thought, this chip is much more powerful than I'll ever need to run iPad software. And of course, that was the chip that they showed off with the developer edition. And now we've got the M1, and it's just the beginning of, this is going to be a very interesting year for Apple with their microprocessors. I mean, I don't want to be an Apple fanboy, but it's hard at this point to look at any other. They're not the number one phone maker in the world. You know,
no, not by a long shot.
Not by a long shot. Samsung, Huawei, bigger.
Whenever antitrust comes up, Tim Cook always says there's no market in which we have the dominant position.
Right.
Except, of course, the App Store, and that's
when they're in trouble for. There is one way they dominate in every market they're in, and that's in revenue, profit per share. Yeah, profit per item.
Also, they've managed to take the top quintile of the population, the richest people in the world, and they're serving them, which is also not a bad place to be. They'll never advertise that, but that's what they're aiming for.
Yeah, they want the rich people.
I think Apple's really like the BMW of the phone world, somewhat accessible to a lot of people, super high profit margins, rock solid brand.
It's aspirational luxury. It's always been that way, right? It's aspirational luxury, right? Like it's the sort of thing that.
Are you saying it's the Jordan Off-Whites of computing?
No, I'm not. No, I'm not. Jordan Off-Whites of computing would be like those stupid, like Nokia used to own the company that made like those super expensive phones, like
the bejeweled phones. Yeah.
That no one has any reason to buy, that are dumb, or like the $1,200 Blackberries that they used to sell to people in the UAE. No, Apple, I think BMW is a perfect corollary, right? And then they have different levels too, because you can get in at lower levels. Like you can get a BMW 3 Series, or you can get a pre-owned, but still be part of the family. And you can go all the way up to spending ridiculous sums of money on, a Mac Pro. But it's aspirational, right? Like it's aspirational luxury. It's gonna by definition count out a certain sector of the populace. Although I do think this is where AirPods have been, and the Apple Watch for that matter too, have been fairly brilliant, is that if you look at them in their sector, certainly you can find lower cost devices, but not that much lower cost. And when you look at it from a quality comparison standpoint, you really can't do much better. I mean, we're finally 4 years after AirPods. There are finally some competitors in the sub $150 space that could be as good as AirPods, even if you're not using them with an iPhone. Yeah. The Apple Watch, especially when you can get kind of like the $200 space, I don't think there's anything. Again, you have to have an iPhone, so that is a knock against it. But
they clobbered everybody else.
They did. Yeah. Like I wouldn't recommend somebody to get a Fitbit. The only person who I've recently, and by recently I mean in the last couple of years, that I've bought a Fitbit for has been my parents. And the reason there is that they have Rolexes. And I've come really close to getting my mom an Apple Watch a number of times, but
Wait a minute. So she wears a Rolex and her Fitbit?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess you would, so as
right.
one does. Yeah.
Right. And so, but I have actually thought a number of times about getting her an Apple Watch, and it's just been a weird thing in my mind, even though the Rolexes are very old. It's one of those things where you're like,
Mom, okay, you could give me the Rolex, and here's an Apple Watch.
100%. But like, that does seem like a weird trade to make, right? Like that seems like a weird, like value trade to make. But
honestly, if you're talking pure functionality, the Apple Watch kicks the Rolex's butt. It's not as pretty, not as expensive, not as high status.
Right, exactly. And so, yeah, but at this point, I mean, I think it's interesting that obviously I think the phones and the computers especially, right? The computers are really where there's the highest barrier to entry, but it's still aspirational. But for the accessories, for the wearables, like, again, like that's kind of why I compared the AirPods to the iPod, because that really was the first hit mass adoption Apple product that they had. By the time in 2003, by the time they had the USB 30-pin connector, it was available for Windows. That thing sold like hotcakes. You couldn't, they were selling way more of them, for Windows users than for Mac users. And it created a whole market and took over an entire industry and led to, frankly, the Apple that we have today. And I think that the AirPods are doing the same thing, kind of, 17 years, 18 years later. Wow. But, to Alex's point, it is kind of a BMW thing, in that they don't go after the bottom barrel thing. They're not going after Chromebooks. They're not going after the real entry level, like, cheapest you can do. Like, they want to have a high margin. They want to have a quality standard, but it is designed in a way where, okay, you might not be able to be 100% in the Apple ecosystem, but they do make it possible for people to dip their toe in. And then the hope, as Philip was pointing out earlier, is that once you start to get in, you will become fully immersed, including all the services. And, you will be like me, where your life is.
I hate it. I go kicking and screaming, but the Apple ecosystem does work, and it sucks you in. And I hate it. I don't want to be an ecosystem advocate.
The interesting thing going on in India, where the next biggest market after China. And for a long time, people said, well, Apple is going to fail if they don't make a low-cost phone that they can sell to India. And, for a while, what they did is sold used phones to India. But really what they did is they kept the price the same, and they waited for Indians to get rich enough to afford them.
Right.
And
the other thing they did, because India has very strong tariffs, is they started manufacturing in India. Same thing with Brazil. And in fact, there were stories this week that Apple seems to be starting to make a concerted effort to move out of China for a lot of its assembly.
They've been working on that.
Not the only company doing that.
Yeah.
A lot of companies are working on that. And I think the bringing about the Indian market is really important. We're going to be talking more about the Indian tech scene over the next 10 years than I think people currently realize, because as we've seen with the Ant Financial IPO, recent kind of Chinese government regulation, I think the era of watching China become the almost de facto global leader in things like AI and so forth will slow. And I think the Indian, US, and then North American market are going to kind of be the top three, which is not what I thought was going to be the case a couple of years ago, when the Chinese venture capital scene was the biggest in the world. Yeah. And
what happened there? Did the Chinese government decide that they didn't want to be a capitalist system? So they looked at Jack Ma, and they looked at Ant, and they said, yeah, no. Because for a long time, he kind of had a free reign, right? But too
much power in private hands, though.
They don't want that.
No.
Yeah. So that's the risk.
It's not
capitalism is good in a lot of ways. It's good for the economy. It's good for the country, but it's not good if you lose control, as we have in the United States, frankly, to the big companies. Right?
I mean, I currently work for a Fortune 10 company, Leah, so I certainly couldn't comment on that. And Christina works for a Fortune 2 company, so she can't comment on that. But you and Philip can pop off.
As a little guy, I wish I were a big guy. Apple's profit, look at this, $28.8 billion. That's almost $10 billion a month. That's unbelievable and way beyond anything they've done before. Is Apple overvalued, though? Come on, give me some stock tips. Should I tell my dad to sell his Apple stock now?
Well, it took a hit because of
that cracked me up.
The people locking in the value.
Thing.
Yeah, they got to $100 the week before they announced. But I always said, that's the old saw is you buy on the rumor, you sell on the news. That they did exactly that, but maybe the GameStop stuff. People sold Apple shares to get.
It probably would have gone to 150, 155 if it hadn't been for GameStop, and because the shorts had to find money somewhere, so they sold.
They took it out of Apple. That's interesting. Yeah.
Well, we see that happen. I mean, not to this degree, but we see that happen almost every big blowout Apple earnings. As you see a certain number of people wanting to lock in.
Yeah.
Absolutely,
yeah.
and it. I mean, that's kind of the deal. I mean, even Microsoft. It was in disclosure. Yes, I have Microsoft stock. Like we went up, and then it's gone down again. But it went up like right after their earnings.
Yeah, you had an incredible quarter too.
Yeah, not Apple level. Like, let's be very clear about that. But it was also, very good, which
double digit.
Totally, which makes me feel a little guilty. As like somebody who seeing the state of the rest of the world, and then you're seeing how well the company you work for is doing and all those things, and you're like, this doesn't seem right, but it is what it is.
So I did some math, Leo.
Yeah.
28.8 billion over 90 days, about 1 quarter's length of time, is $320 million a day, which works out to $13.3 million per hour in Apple GAAP net income in the last quarter. So done.
That's everyone. Profit, by the way. That's not revenue. Yeah. That's profit.
I feel so poor sitting here.
Money in your pocket. Apple is currently at 131, so they were at 143. So they're doing all right, but see, that's the thing. And I don't have Apple stock. I'm not an Apple investor. You got to know when to sell. Can it just keep going? Look at this, going up. At some point, doesn't it stop?
Leo, go ahead and pull the NASDAQ chart.
NASDAQ's doing the same thing.
Yeah, just take a look at a 5-year NASDAQ chart and then think about how that feels compared to the state of the economy. I'm not saying it's too high.
I don't understand it.
It's an interesting thing to keep in mind.
Yeah, I don't understand it. Why is that? Is it tech is so damn good?
Well, a couple things. One is that the market is betting on 6 months from now, so they could see that the vaccine was going to put an end. That we could see the end of the COVID thing. Also, Apple and Microsoft, anybody who was in the work from home thing, was doing great in COVID.
Right.
This played right into their hands.
Right.
So
I have to admit that I have. For my retirement, I only invest in mutual funds, index funds, but I put a significant amount into an information technology index. So I just buy the whole tech market.
Yeah.
And I think that it seems to me like there's a future in the tech market. They're going to do okay.
You think? Maybe just a little bit.
Right.
I don't know.
Well, I don't know. Are you going to bet on buggy whips and Exxon? I mean, come on now.
Oil. I'm going into big oil. Coal, I think, is going to be great. I'm just very excited about the future for buggy whips. I think you nailed it right there. That's my portfolio.
Come to Twit. Get your investment advice.
I buy those target retirement funds. So that's my target retirement 1918 fund. I felt pretty good about that.
The Telegraph's going to be huge.
Should have retired in 1918, though.
The dentistry, though, was pretty bad back then. And they didn't have good drugs, and your appendix would kill you. So, and sexism and more racism.
That's true. You didn't need so much money because you were going to die at 50 anyway. So, there you go.
That's morbid.
Got dark. Got really dark.
Cheery.
Sorry about that. Dan Riccio.
You're going to die anyway.
Yeah,
you're going to die anyway.
Can't take it with you. I know.
That's a good title for the show.
You're going to take. Yeah, great.
You're going to die anyway.
Oh, my God. Dan Riccio, Apple executive, big shot, taking a secret job. Christina, what could that secret job be?
I don't know. Maybe a headset, some glasses.
Maybe some.
I don't know.
Oh, that's what Gruber said. He says it's not Titan, it's not the car, because they just put a new guy in. John Giandrea, the guy who came over from Google, is now running Apple's car effort, whatever that might be. What is the next big thing for Apple? Philip, you agree?
Glasses. Yeah, I think glasses is probably it. I don't know how far away it is. The car. I was talking to Horace. We had Horace over as a guest for our
love him. He is great.
And he knows this micro mobility stuff, and I get the impression he's got pretty good access to Apple, to the executives, and I get the impression he's been pitching them on bicycles and scooters and stuff. He's really into you don't need a car to go to the grocery store if it's nearby. So and he was pretty frank. He said, I talk to them, and we just can't find a business model that works.
Oh, interesting.
They can't find a way to make money on those bikes.
I love my electric bike. I would ride it everywhere. I love it.
What do you do when it rains?
I get in the car. I also love my electric car. Horowiz's website is asimco.com, and he really is one of the best analysts out there. My problem, I look at VR and AR, and I look at what's happened with VR anyway, and to me, it's a dead fish. I don't see a huge future for VR.
Yeah, the great Mark Gurman had an article describing Apple's working on this product, and when you looked at what he said they were doing, it weighed too much. It pulled your head down.
Yeah, people were getting stiff necks.
Slide glasses into it. It had cameras on the side, and my reaction was that thing is never coming to market. At least Apple's not going to bring it to market.
Right.
But Apple, they've got engineers working on everything. They just have to see.
Well, that's the problem. If you're an Apple watcher, you got to remember they're going to try a lot of stuff. Much of it will never make it to the market.
Right. Like that site Patently Apple reports on every patent.
Yeah, I don't actually do those stories because
99% of them will never come to anything.
Yeah, Apple, like any big company, like Microsoft, I'm sure, has a building, just a whole building with lawyers in it. And one of the, just a whole building full of lawyers.
I don't think you were going to go in that direction.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And just this is a whole building, just like that's the lawyer building over there. And then they come to every meeting. And if you say, I was thinking, what if you could have a mouse that would hold your sandwich in it? And they go, that's patentable. And they go and they make you file a patent just because they don't want anybody else to make it. And that doesn't mean anybody's going to do any of that. But what would make people? I don't think anything's going to make people run out and buy VR. Honestly,
you need a killer app. You need a killer app for like the AR, right? The VR, I think games have been the attempt, but it requires a lot of space.
Anything that makes people throw up is not going to be a big hit in the long run.
Right.
The killer app for me, because I can never remember anybody's name, and I've always had trouble associating faces with names. It would be the thing that when I meet someone, a little thing comes up my glasses.
I'd love that.
That's Joe Blow.
That's Philip Elmer DeWitt. You used to work with him. He's a city council member in Greenfield.
Hey, Philip, how's the city council going?
I mean, that would actually be awesome. I mean, for directions, I think it'd be good too, whether walking or driving. If you could see kind of like an indicator of where you're going. It's interesting. I think about like the Bose frames. I don't know if any of you have used them, but they're the sunglasses that have like the open ear kind of Bluetooth
have you used
headphones.
those? Do you like them?
I don't have them, but I've almost bought them a couple of times. Now that I don't go anywhere, it doesn't make a ton of sense for me to buy them.
Wear those around the house, you'd look silly.
Right, but like once I'm able to like walk more and that sort of thing, and when it's not like no sun in Seattle, I might get them. But that does make me think about something like, Apple's like whatever they're going to be doing with their glasses, because if you had something like that where you could, get that kind of personalized input in your ear, like that could actually be pretty great. But that's been the challenge I think anybody in AR and VR has had so far, is there hasn't been the killer app. And Apple obviously has the best track record of anybody of trying to kind of come up with the best experience around that. So I certainly wouldn't bet against them. But it's why we've seen other AR plays almost entirely be business to business and in kind of, verticals of people who can use them in industry, rather than any sort of consumer plays where for all of the like futurist ideas that we have of how cool it would be, there hasn't been anything that's just been compelling enough to people to say, I'm willing to put up with these limitations and all this other stuff to have this computer on my face. But if anybody can do it, it's Apple, right?
Let's take a little break. Philip Elmer DeWitt, Christina Warren, Alex Wilhelm is living in my childhood home.
It's true.
Really?
Really?
It's one of the best bits of Twit trivia, yeah.
It's the strangest thing. I only found that out because his wife, Liza, was here. They were just engaged at that point. And I said, oh, you live in Providence. I grew up in Providence. She said, where? And I told her the address. She said, that's where I live.
Yeah.
That's the coolest thing I've ever heard.
Is that wild?
That's so nuts.
It's one of those like how small can the world be moments, and it never fails to make me laugh.
I love it.
I will say that we're taking care of the place.
I know.
It's
you
in
sent
high
me
repair.
pictures. It looks. I sent the pictures to my mom. She said, "Oh my God, what have they done?"
Just wait till you can come over, Leo. We're gonna make you the biggest dinner you've ever had.
You know, she said, Alex. She said, "Oh, they have money."
I'm just gonna awkwardly sit here for a minute, and then I'm gonna wait for the ad to start.
Oh, they have money. She said, you should send that to your father. He'll be very interested.
My mother-in-law has good taste, I think is what I'll add to this conversation.
Liza's folks lived there first, right? They bought it.
No, they live nearby.
Oh, they didn't buy it? Oh, they bought it for Liza?
I was not.
You weren't around at that time?
They bought this house.
Okay. Yeah.
So it was wild. It was like 6-7 years ago.
Well, now that there's a Pepe's Pizza in Providence, I'm moving in with you guys, actually.
But we have bedrooms. Come on in.
Oh, man, I would love to stay in my old house. That would be hysterical. That would be so bizarrely weird. Hey, we had a great week on Twit, didn't we, John? Do you have a promo? Gurman says that this first headset will be more expensive than those from rivals. And of course, the Quest 2 starts at what, $250, $300?
That'll be the AirPods Max of VR headsets.
That's less than a hobby.
Riccio, everybody.
Previously on Twit. Hands-on photography.
And today I want to share with you just a simple couple tips to get yourself squared away to do a self-portrait versus doing a selfie.
Tech News Weekly.
There's this side of Nextdoor that's sort of the warm, fuzzy side where neighbors trade tips on finding a plumber, or you post your lost cat. And then there was this side of it that I think people are increasingly becoming aware of, which is that it's used as a tool sometimes of racial profiling, discrimination.
All about Android.
The way that Beeper works is we run a server, like in this case on your Mac, but the server re-encrypts the messages with an encryption key that you set up, and then it sends it to the Beeper servers, and we can't decrypt the messages. In fact, it's even better than iMessage. It's more secure than iMessage.
Twit. Why didn't I get your mass text? I'm in your contacts.
Sorry, Jim. Next time. That beeper is going to be $10 a month. That's kind of I don't know how that's, we need something that's going to unify messaging somehow. But that's the founder of Pebble who started that. Was on Tech News Weekly this week. Our show today brought to you by Molecule. I think getting an air purifier is really an important purchase. And actually, I use them all over the place. We started with our first Molecule in the bedroom at home, and then we got one for Michael, and we have one in the living room. Now this is our second Molecule in the studio. It uses something called PICO, photo electrochemical oxidation. With a Molecule, you're actually destroying harmful pollutants in the air, like viruses, bacteria, mold, and chemicals. You're not just collecting them on filters. Molecule's air purifiers are designed to help protect homes, businesses, and they even are in medical spaces, dental offices, medical offices. They are designed to destroy pollutants and provide clean air. Not an air filter, air purifier. We just got the new Molecule. What do we call this? Is this the Air Pro? It's the biggest one we've had. This is designed for our large studio. They have an Air Mini designed for rooms up to 250 square feet. The Air Mini Plus has a particle sensor and auto protect mode, which means the fan speed goes up and down. There's a Molecule Air Pro RX, an FDA-approved 510K Class 2 medical device. The Molecule's PICO technology meets the performance requirements in the FDA guidance for use and help reducing the risk of exposure to SARS-CoV-2, the COVID-19 virus in healthcare settings. You can check it out if you go to molecule.com/air reviews. But I would also go to molecule.com and read the research papers. Studies from places like Lawrence Livermore Labs, from the government sites where they've studied this, and really remarkable results. Molecule's technology and filtration systems have been tested by and verified by independent third-party labs, not just for your home, for your office, for your medical office. This breakthrough Pico technology is available at any size and price, so you can get whatever you need for the environment that you're protecting. Pick the unit that's best for your space. Create a discounted bundle. It's not loud. You can't hear it. But it is getting all those particles. And this one's big enough to cover the whole studio. Right now, you can get 10% off your first air purifier order at molecule.com when you use the code TWIT10 at checkout. Molecule spelled with a K, MOLEKULE.com. And I don't expect you to just take my word for it. Go to the site, read the research, learn about the technology. I think you'll be very impressed. Molecule.com. Enter the offer code TWIT10, TWIT10 for 10% off. Get a whole bundle for the everywhere. We're really glad that we got the Air Pro. We I kind of begged them for it. They sent us that one. I said, please, can we have it for the studio? We did buy the ones we have at home. Molecule.com. Offer code TWIT10. This is completely a rumor. It's almost like a patent rumor, but it makes me very excited. Apple, according to 9 to 5 Mac, Apple might be putting a blood sugar sensor in the Series 7. That would be huge.
The technology apparently exists. They use infrared light, shine it on the blood, and if there's sugar in the blood, it actually heats up just enough to pick up the signal. So there are companies that have that technology on the market in big devices. So Apple's challenge would be to put it in a watch.
This is a huge market. I mean,
massive.
I don't know how many.
36 million.
Wow.
Something like that.
Yeah, I'm type 2 diabetic, and so it's very important if you're a type 2, and that's a big problem in the U.S. because we're so fat. At least I am. If you're type 2, you really...
No, you look great, Leo. You look great.
Yeah, well, actually, you know what? Because I monitor my blood sugar, I actually brought it into... I'm never cured, but it's back below the normal A1C is below 6. So, but that's why it's so important. If to have it on your watch, it's really annoying to prick your finger with a needle. It's not much fun. And
right.
And if you could put that in your watch, now of course they'd have to get FDA approval, which is always tricky. But this could be a big product for Apple. I mean, you want to see a growth market? If you've got 36 million diabetics in this country, they would all want this watch. No one wants to prick their finger. It's not
No, I mean, and I think even if you can say that it is, even if you can't claim that it's as effective as doing like the finger prick test, if it could even be just enough to give you, an indicator that you need to do a prick test because your levels might not be correct. Like you still are going to have that. I think it could be huge. And there are many... Right. And there are so many people who aren't diabetic but might be borderline diabetic or might have other things where they need to monitor their blood sugar. And I think similarly to like what they've done with like the heart rate stuff and being able to detect, arrhythmia for potential heart attacks, like this could be just massive. I think about like my friend Scott Hanselman, who's a type 1 diabetic and who has, a number of devices that he wears and controls. And something like this, I think, not to fully rely on, but just to have, to keep in check, hey, I need to, this looks like this might be a little bit low. I need to do a reading would be fantastic.
This is where Apple, when the watch came out at first, they had a lot of ideas about what it would be, but they pretty quickly realized health device. We want to make it a health device. And it's become better and better and better at that. I gave one to my 88-year-old mom for fall detection, but she's using Fitness Plus to get exercise every day. And she says, it said my heart rate went up at night, so I'm going to call my doctor because it was really high while I was sleeping. Those are things that saves lives. 26 million Americans, according to the Diabetes Association, have diabetes but have not been diagnosed. 26 million. And if this watch would help save some of those lives, that could be massive. So you look for where is the growth opportunity for Apple. That's certainly one of them.
You know what? The Apple Watch feels kind of like Amazon Prime. They just keep adding things to it, so it seems like a better and better deal. Like, I don't know why I watch The Expanse on Amazon Prime, but I do, which always just blows my mind. Why is there television on my, e-commerce shipping service?
I just wanted 2-day shipping, and I got The Expanse.
And I just want Twitter on my wrist. I didn't know I was also going to get sleep tracking and blood sugar, but okay, cool. Why would I buy anything else? So they just keep adding to it, and it makes it harder and harder for me not to buy one. And I can feel that probably this is the year I'm going to break down and order one just because I want it.
Yep.
Have
you watched Flack, Christina, yet on Amazon Prime?
No, I haven't.
Anna Paquin. Yeah, she's a.
I love her. I love her. So okay.
That's all you need to say. Anna Paquin. It's your kind of show. I think you'll like it. We just discovered it and we can't stop watching it. Hyundai.
That's a pivot. Have you seen Flack? Anyways, Hyundai.
Speaking of cars, Hyundai, a little bit of angst, a little bit of existential angst over the thing with Apple. They announced that they were talking to Apple about a car deal, which I thought that's the kiss of death. Apple will never talk to you again. Why would you say that out loud?
Right.
You fools. But then now they're saying at Hyundai, this story from Reuters, Hyundai is wrestling with the risks of embracing Apple. You should be so lucky, Hyundai.
Speaking of spin, right? Speaking of Flax, that's some good spin. It reminds me of who was the Philip will probably remember this. Who was the textbook publisher who leaked that they were working with Apple on a textbook deal before the iBooks bookstore came out, who was then kind of unceremoniously taken off the slide at the iPad event. Yeah, because that's what's going to happen, Hyundai. Yeah, you should be so lucky.
You don't forget the angst. You don't have to worry. Actually, I meant to mention when we were talking about the watch, the Google deal for Fitbit closed this week. Do you think Google can take, with all their money and resources, can make, obviously they're looking at the Apple Watch saying, how come, Fitbit, which used to outsell the Apple Watch like crazy, maybe still does with the less expensive devices, but certainly doesn't make as much money as the Apple Watch. Do you think Google might be taking aim at Apple and saying, how can we turn this? We gave up on Android Wear. That was a flop. Maybe we could turn Fitbit into something?
I mean, maybe. I mean, the big thing that Fitbit always had going for it was its kind of cross-platform nature, right? The fact that you could use it with anything.
Android needs something. If you don't have do you have an iPhone, Alex, but not an Apple Watch? Or are you an Android guy?
No, I've had iPhones essentially since the first one came out.
But how could you not have an Apple Watch? What do you...
Well, I tried to buy one about a year ago, and it got caught somewhere in the shipping thing, and then they ended up returning it to Apple, and then I just didn't try again.
Saved by the bell. Do you use a Fitbit?
I have had different fitness wearables. The only one that I liked was the Microsoft Band, RIP. But I work out more.
You're like the one person, Alex.
Yeah, you're the one. It was so nice with your Zune, though, right? Didn't it? They worked well together, didn't they?
Do you know what was a great device? My Zune. I had a black one. It was fantastic. I loved it.
You see, you can tell.
I learned how to run last summer, and I was carrying my iPhone around like a moron because I had to have my tracker on it. So I just kind of ran with it in my hand. And so I think this summer I'm going to buy an Apple Watch to avoid having to carry a phone around. Yeah.
For the longest time, I had. It really looked bad. A band that you would put on that would hold the phone. Right. It's ridiculous. The watch.
I bought one of those. It's like a fanny pack type thing, and I tried to use it once because I was wearing AirPods for music, and it was so uncomfortable. I didn't even get around the whole run with it on. So yeah, I need to buy an Apple Watch, but it's snowing here, Leo. So I'm not exactly outdoors.
I heard there's a little storm coming. Apple has actually added Dolly Parton to my watch. I am so excited about taking a walk with Dolly Parton. This is the new Fitness Plus thing, Time to Walk, an inspiring audio walking experience. Have you tried this, anybody? The idea is...
I deleted it immediately because I thought, I thought it was this Apple Fitness Plus thing that quit halfway through and that they were coming back to remind me. But, it doesn't work for me because I have my whole routine. I have all these podcasts that I have to get through before I finish walking the dog.
This is going to kill us.
So I don't need Dolly Parton to screw me up.
But what's wild is she's walking. So all of the people in this, Shawn Mendes, Dolly Parton, the Golden State Warriors, Draymond Green, Uzo Aduba from Orange is the New Black, they're actually walking. So
not live, they've
no, they're not. Taped. They recorded it, and they don't answer you when you say, "Dolly, come here." But what's cool is you're walking and they're walking and huffing and puffing and saying, "Let me tell you, I think it's a good idea. I think it's a really good idea." I presume it will be others. I wonder if this is the beginning of Apple's podcast ambitions. To be honest,
You know who else's podcast ambitions? Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I'm just going to keep pointing out how strange Amazon Prime is to me until it makes sense at some point in time. But I think everyone wants to do this podcasting thing. And
I know where you could get a really good, well-designed podcast network cheap if anybody's in the market.
Is it perhaps Twit?
It's got a superannuated host, but there's some young people. Great audience. Wonderful revenue possibilities. Just call me 555-1212, Leo. I'm in the phone book. No, I'm just kidding. But it is interesting. I actually, with a little trepidation, I look at all these companies like Spotify and Apple and Amazon getting into the podcast business and thinking, this isn't going to be good for the little guy. Philip, you're a little guy. How do you were saying? I want to hear your monetization strategy because it's free to go to PED30.com.
Right. It's changed. The original thing was to take the people who were reading me on Fortune and move them to my new thing. And that worked okay. But then there's churn, and also the original plan was, okay, everything is eventually free, but I'm going to hold back for a few days. It would be windowing. That didn't work because what I was doing was so newsy. I'm really just cutting and pasting the news and
so a few days later, who cares? I'm not gonna.
Yeah. So, but it was going along. It was growing slowly because what I'm bringing to the party is analyst notes that cost hundreds of dollars a month that I give for $10 a month.
Yeah. See, that's to me, that's the ticket to getting people to pay a subscription is you have to make them money.
Right. But since everybody can read it for free, the only people who were paying were the ones who loved me or whatever.
So basically, your mom and your wife. It's a small group.
My model basically is what the Well was. Do you remember that?
Love the Well. I was a longtime member.
The game there was you were selling people their own conversation.
Right. Because you want to be on the Well with all those other great people. Yeah.
Right. So people are paying to be because you can only be part of the.
That's the model for Clubhouse.
There you go. So anyway, it was going along, and then one of my readers, Robert Paul Lateo, who had his own thing called the Brayburn Group, he said he would like to help me. He was willing to start up Zoom chats that would be exclusive. So then I thought, okay, well. And then also I was having meet and greets on these Zooms, and it got clearer to me why they came. And why they came was there aren't very many places where you can talk about Apple as a stock without a lot of, BS, without a lot of trolls and because you have to use your real name on my site, that cuts down on a lot of stuff. Anyway, So someone said, well, if you need more money, why don't you just double your fee? And that gave me an opportunity to say, I'm going to double the fee on January 1st. Get it now for $100 a month while it's cheap. And and I was able to drive up my membership by something like 20% by doubling my money, by doubling the cost. So there you go.
So you doubled the cost and you got more people?
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense.
Well, they were getting it.
He's cracked.
They were getting it for $100, and before it went up to $200.
So it's supply and demand. Wow. How does he do
media
it?
is saved.
You've saved media. So if you join, you get to watch like Horace was a subscriber exclusive. So you get to be part of those kinds of things. That's cool.
Right. Ask me anything. And I've had a couple of analysts, and people just enjoy meeting each other because they've been, reading their comments for years.
Yeah. We've been thinking about subscription actually ever since day one on Twit. We've never really.
Well, I was ad free from the start. I didn't want any ad. I didn't want mostly because I didn't want to sell ads. I didn't,
that's a lot of fun. Let me tell you.
Yeah.
A lot of fun. Facebook's oversight board is now tasked with figuring out what to do about the Donald. This is the board of distinguished people who are given the role of kind of adjudicating the toughest decisions that Facebook has to make about pulling down hate speech or violence or nipples, which actually turns out to be a lot harder than hate speech and violence. The board members have already ruled on some of their first cases, and they took the case of the president, the former president. Their decision is binding, so it'll be interesting. They have to rule within 90 days. It'll be interesting to see whether they uphold Facebook's decision to suspend the former president or whether they overrule it, in which case Facebook has agreed we will do what they say to do.
Basically, they took it off Mark's plate.
Yeah.
Yes.
And in theory, it rules, but he runs the company, so if they got into a big conflict, we'll see.
It's interesting because the first 5 cases are in. In 4 out of the 5 cases, they overturned Facebook's original decision. What a great
thing for Facebook, Leo, because now they get to let more people be on their platform and drive up engagement.
That's exactly what they wanted. And it's not our fault. They told us to do it. We didn't want to do it, but they said we had to. So,
Mark, it's a thin patina of democracy that they kind of smeared over the top of Mark Zuckerberg's empire, and he gets all the cash, and they take the responsibility and the hits, and who doesn't win?
Plausible deniability. That's what he's got.
Also, talk about a slow roll. How long is it before
it takes forever
about Trump?
So these first cases, the first was a user in Myanmar, to your point, who disparaged Muslims as psychologically inferior. The company decided the post violated its policy, but the board overruled them, saying the terms used were not derogatory or violent. The board wrote, while the post might be considered pejorative or offensive toward Muslims, that did not advocate hatred or intentionally incite any form of imminent harm. Okay. In the second case, a user posted a term to describe Azerbaijanis that Facebook said, that's a slur. The board ruled the context in which the term was used made it clear it was meant to dehumanize its target. So they said, yep, we're going to uphold the decision. In the third case, it involved nipples. The board overturned Facebook's decision to remove an Instagram post from a user in Brazil intended to raise awareness about breast cancer. It's not male nipples that they care about. It's female nipples for some reason. They look exactly the same, oddly enough. But the post included 5 photographs that showed women's nipples, which the board said, no, that's okay because it's breast cancer awareness. In the fourth case, a user quoted Joseph Goebbels, always a good source, the head of Nazi propaganda. The board said the quote did not support the Nazi Party's ideology or the regime's act of hate and violence, so they overturned Facebook's decision. What are you going to do?
The chat room says they love nipples.
They free the nipples. Nothing wrong. I'm sure I've seen Instagram posts where they had nipples from men and women close up. You couldn't tell, and they said, "Tell us, which ones you want us to take down." Facebook.
Facebook's like, all of them. Fine. That's easy enough. We'll just take care of that. Just whack.
Not allowed. And then Facebook removed a post from a user in France falsely claiming a cure for COVID-19 existed and criticizing the French government for failing to make it available. The board, considering the context, argued the user was opposing a governmental policy and aimed to change that policy. It wouldn't lead people to self-medicate, so put it back up. So it's interesting, I guess.
You know, in DC, they say the best way for a politician to squirm out of anything is to form a kind of a blue ribbon commission
Blue
about
ribbon
it.
commission.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so what Facebook did was go, gosh, we're taking a lot of incoming fire. Let's get 20 people and pay them enough money that they'll be compliant. And then we'll let them take on all the moral risk. And we'll sit back and claim that we're no longer in charge.
Yeah.
I mean, I just can't get over how brilliant this is by Facebook. It's a great way to get out of jail. And they don't have to worry about anything. Ugh, it's gross.
Facebook is really pissed off over Apple exposing their privacy violations. And it hurt them. You know, people have been talking about delete Facebook for years. But the minute Apple did this, WhatsApp had to reveal that they change their privacy policy and said, yeah, we share information with Facebook. And immediately, millions of people, tens of millions, turned away from WhatsApp and went to Telegram and Signal.
Signal couldn't keep up. Signal was like,
so Signal couldn't keep up.
We were not expecting this. Yeah.
So Apple has a huge, I commend them actually for this. Apple said, look, we're just telling people, they have the choice, they could turn it on. We're just telling people what's going on and letting them make the choice. And Facebook says, no, don't do that.
Apparently,
if you tell people what we do.
Oh my God.
Apparently Facebook's disclosure thing about privacy is 14 pages long.
Oh, it's ridiculous. Yeah. Yeah. Although I did see, and you probably saw this too, Philip,
Washington Post.
There is apparently a lot of these privacy statements are wrong. Like people are lying as much as 50%.
Yeah. The guy at the Washington Post just went through and started checking them, and half of them were wrong. They claimed that there was no tracking, and it turned out there was tracking. And then he reported it, and sometimes they would change the description, and sometimes they did nothing, and those things are still up there. Apple hasn't actually turned on this thing, the ATT. That happened sometime this quarter. So
they delayed it because Facebook complained.
Yeah, a lot of people complained. Yeah. Facebook is going to take a 7% hit, someone estimated.
Billions.
In their revenue.
Yeah,
billions. That's 1.5 billion.
Yeah. Yeah, Jeffrey Fowler at the Post, who has always been one of those guys who will actually do the work, which I commend him for, actually went through and looked at these, tested them with Privacy Pro, and asked a guy from Disconnect, former NSA researcher, to run a deeper analysis and found a lot of, well, for instance, the Satisfying Slime Simulator, which sounds like I would download that, but it's really for ages 4 and up, was sharing a way to identify my iPhone and other device properties with Facebook, Google, and a service called Game Analytics. It was sending Unity, the software, the game software, not only my phone's ID, but also my battery level, my free storage space, my general location, even my volume level. They claimed they took no data at all. Wow. And he goes on and on and on. So I imagine at some point Apple will look to enforcement and probably will have ways to do that.
Yep.
But for now, don't necessarily assume that those privacy statements are accurate.
I don't want to give Apple credit because they're a multi-trillion-dollar company, and so screw them. But
they don't need your credit, baby. They give you credit.
That's true. Actually, I don't have an Apple credit card because I don't need one because I have a Southwest credit card. So
smart.
But I mean,
those miles will really come in handy someday.
Yeah, in 27,000 years when I can leave the house again.
Someday.
But Apple is probably one of the few companies with sufficient clout and no real ad platform to speak of scale to force change to actually create a more private internet for us regular folks. And so if they do that, they'll earn my eternal
Some have said
thanks.
That Apple's only doing this because their attempt at an ad network was such a flop that they had to pivot from that to privacy. But hey, for whatever reason.
Yeah, I don't care what path they took. I mean, Microsoft politely has Bing, which is a relatively large search engine in the world. It's number 2.
Yep.
Google, of course, is pretty compromised. Facebook is just one big privacy catastrophe on wheels. So, maybe Apple can do this.
Tim Cook spoke at the EU Data Protection Conference, CPDP, this week. He gave a keynote titled "A Path to Empowering User Choice and Boosting User Trust in Advertising." So he talked exactly about this. He said, as I've said before, if we accept as normal and unavoidable that everything in our lives can be aggregated and sold, we lose so much more than data. We lose the freedom to be human. And yet this is a hopeful new season, a time of thoughtfulness and reform. Basically, he didn't say Facebook by name, but he condemned its business model. He said, if a business is built on misleading users, on data exploitation, on choices that are no choice at all, it does not deserve our praise. It deserves reform. It's convenient because it doesn't hurt their business. But
right. It's a strategy advantage.
Yeah.
But like Alex says, I'm not too concerned about why, I mean, as long as the net result is positive, cool, Yeah.
Actually, this week, Spotify apparently said that we're going to be analyzing your emotions as well as your pocketbook and everything else when you listen to Spotify music. I wouldn't be surprised if we start to see these kind of moves as people learn what these companies are up to, away from Spotify to probably will benefit Apple Music, away from WhatsApp to Signal and Telegram. These guys, this could change a lot. This could be a huge economic
Although the one area I'll push back is that as much as people hate like having, the privacy sold and whatnot, there are advantages to that too. Like Apple Music, and I'm an Apple Music subscriber. I also subscribe to Spotify because I'm dumb and, have multiple subscriptions to everything. But like the thing that, the end of year thing that everybody loves so much from Spotify, the Spotify, Unwrapped, where they give you all of your analytics. Like people love that. Apple Music doesn't have anything even close. Yeah. So I think that on the one hand, people will be like, oh, well, I don't like you tracking my emotions or this other stuff. But on the other hand, they're like, oh, no, but show me all of my most listened to things and who I'm the biggest fan of and all this other analysis. Like people love that data. So like there's this weird thing where I think in cases like Facebook, specifically with WhatsApp, because they'd said that they would keep it separate and then, moving all the data to Facebook, I think that's like one big move that you can see people are actively being like, all right, well, getting off of this and we have other options. Something like music, I don't know. I mean, like
you might like it if Spotify says you sound sad, let me play a song to cheer you up.
Or maybe like this is other, sad music like you like. I mean, the thing is that Spotify's playlists are better from the algorithm.
The Discover weekly playlist is amazing.
They are, and they're better. I mean, I like my favorites playlist from Apple Music.
Not
but
as
that's
good.
Just stuff that it's not. It's stuff that I know I like. I'm never going to hear anything new on it.
No discovery.
Whereas Discover Weekly, I get new stuff that is tailored to me all the time. So I mean, there's a trade-off to that. And part of me, I'm like, I understand that Spotify is monetizing and monitoring and all the stuff with my listening habits, but I'm getting a better listening experience out of it in some ways. Whereas it's similar to Siri, right? Like Siri is a terrible assistant, largely because it isn't doing any of the things that Google Assistant and Alexa are doing. And sometimes if all you're wanting to do is set an alarm or do other stuff, that's fine. But if you're actually wanting to try to get information and use it as a tool, I mean, I think even those of us who are like deeply, deeply embedded in the Apple ecosystem acknowledge that Siri is terrible and that the other ones are better, so sometimes there are trade-offs.
Google is the best.
Yeah.
No, Google's the best?
Yeah.
Really?
If you want to know,
the best assistant.
When someone
someone
is born, when you want to look at something in Wikipedia,
I guess
Google's
that's true.
got it.
Each has their strengths. Amazon's great if you want to buy something.
Or if you want to stream the latest science fiction shows.
There you go. Amazon Prime. Spotify
this is going to be the thing that I can't stop talking
has
about.
not yet implemented it, but they've patented technology to allow it to analyze your voice because it's in your phone. It's got a microphone that would suggest songs based on your emotional state, gender, age, or accent. You sound Scottish. That means I'm going to play some angry music for you. I don't know what the accent would do, but they patented it. They didn't implement it, so we really shouldn't go by patents. You say you're silly to have Apple Music and Spotify, Christina. I'm stupid. I don't have Spotify. I have Apple Music, Google Music, which is now YouTube Music, Amazon HD Prime Music, and then a bunch of other like Prime Phonic. I have like 6 subscriptions, And they all have the same music. It's so stupid.
I have the Google one too, but that's just because I have like the YouTube Red or whatever.
You get the YouTube
Premium.
Red.
Yeah, so I don't use it, so it's not used. But yeah, I will say I don't have the Amazon Prime subscription thing. That I have held off on.
I got it. I got it because it's HD. They stream it at a higher bit rate. So I thought, okay. Hey, we got to take a break because the time is running short. You probably are all starving. So hang on here. We're going to take a little short break and wrap this thing up with our fabulous panel. Christina Warren, Philip Elmer DeWitt, and the great Alex Wilhelm. I mean that generically, the great. I don't know if you're actually great, but just generically, I'm teasing you. I love to tease you. I just love to tease Alex because he lives in my old house. He's like my brother.
I feel vaguely like your younger brother at times.
Yeah,
so it's actually kind of
I feel that way too. Isn't that funny? I don't know why that is. Maybe because you're in my backyard right now. Our show today brought to you by, I love this brand new sponsor. Really happy to have him. You all know him, Udacity. Udacity was started by Sebastian Thrun. He left Google. He said, you know what? You know what Google needs? You know what Microsoft needs? What Apple needs? What the tech industry needs? People with skills that we can hire. And Udacity was born. It's Audacity without the A. Look, there are a lot of tech jobs out there. I know a lot of you would like to work in tech, but do you have the skills you need? Don't waste your valuable time and money. Udacity is the world's fastest, most efficient, most direct way to master the skills tech companies want. They call them nano degrees. The first was from Google. Now they're nano degrees from IBM, from Microsoft, from AWS, from Google. The Udacity Nano Degree program, it's unique to Udacity. It's an online educational offering designed specifically to bridge the gap between learning and your career goals. You'll learn a suite of employable skills. They partner with industry leaders and experts who understand exactly what the market needs and helps you get those skills. Look at all the companies now that work with Udacity. The thing I like is this is so much better than trying to teach yourself or watching YouTube videos, because once you enroll as a student in a specific course offering, first thing you're going to be prompted to view the online course as well as complete a series of projects. So you'll watch the videos, you'll work with the instructors, but then you have to do it. You can't just say, I watched it, I know it. You have to do it. So you do a series of projects. And by the way, the projects are then reviewed by qualified professionals, real humans. Mentorship is available 24/7. You're going to get personalized code reviews if it's a coding course. This is the kind of stuff you need that's so much better than just trying to do this on your own. They'll also help you get a job. They'll help you build a portfolio on GitHub. That is where a lot of people who are trying to get jobs in tech post their code. They'll show you how to do it and how to get many stars and all the things that help you get that work out. LinkedIn too, to show prospective employers. You'll learn there's courses on networking, on how to get noticed, how to get the job you want. The Nano Degree program can include classroom mentorship, moderated forums, project reviews, and it's so successful. 13 million people are registered users on Udacity all over the world. And this is what I love about it. You know, not everybody has access to this information. Udacity users are in 160 plus countries. 1.3 million projects completed and passed. 150,000 nanodegree certificates earned. Data scientist, data engineer, data analyst. Maybe you want to get into self-driving cars. They have courses in autonomous systems, courses in AI and cloud computing, programming, product management, digital marketing. There are so many courses. There's even free courses you can try just to dip your toe in. Udacity is very affordable. They offer flexible payment options. You can learn at your own pace and schedule. So many people use Udacity while they have day jobs, maybe day jobs that don't satisfy. They're getting the skills, the knowledge they need to get a real job. I'll give you an example. Francisco Gutierrez, you know what? He wasn't happy with his job. He wanted a better life for his family. He couldn't afford a 4-year school. It was just too expensive. He took programming classes at the community college, but they never really translated into job-ready skills. So he participated in the Grow with Google Udacity Challenge. He got a full scholarship for the Mobile Web Specialist Nano Degree. The Nano Degree took him step by step. He got an internship from Microsoft. He did the internship. He had the skills. Microsoft offered him a full-time job as a software engineer. He's working at Microsoft. He's your colleague now, Christina, and it's all because of Udacity. Check out Udacity for Enterprise. Upskill your workforce. It's one of the things I really believe in. Get the education that broadens your horizons. UDACITY. Udacity.com/twit. And by the way, 50% off through May 30th. So this is a good time to do it. Half off when you use the coupon code TWIT. They'll apply the discount at checkout. I strongly encourage you to take advantage of this. Udacity.com/twit. The coupon code is TWIT. The coupon code is TWIT for 50% off. Thank you, Udacity, for supporting This Week in Tech and frankly, for supporting our community and helping them get those great jobs. It's nice to work at Microsoft, isn't it, Christina?
Yes.
Nice people there doing interesting things. And they've got some nano degrees as well. Let's see. Oh, man, you got a feel for AT&T. Are you owned by AT&T, Alex?
No, I'm owned by Verizon.
Verizon. I knew it was one of those. Well, then you're probably laughing when you see that AT&T had to eat a $15.5 billion charge. What's an impairment charge?
An impairment charge is when you write down goodwill. So when you buy another company, you tend to mark the premium you paid on it in accounting terms.
That's a lot of goodwill. $15.5 billion worth of goodwill?
Well, I mean, that's usually what impairment means in the corporate world. If you pay for something and it ends up being worth less than you think, you can't keep the goodwill on your books. You have to write it down, which is an impairment.
Could be related to the fact that AT&T lost 617,000 premium TV customers in Q4 alone, 3 million in the year 2020.
Whoops.
DirecTV, that's what they bought, DirecTV. And its other TV businesses not doing so well. The Death Star, I'm sorry. Premium customers fleeing in droves. AT&T is down to 16.5 million customers, down from 19.5 million at the beginning of 2020. It actually had 25 million in 2017, so it's really been downhill. But, I have to think it's not just AT&T. I bet all of these companies are suffering.
But AT&T, Verizon built more antennas. AT&T bought Time Warner. That's the difference.
Oh, Lord.
Yep.
Oh, Lord. HBO Max is at least the one bright spot. They're doing all right with that. And I have to say, they're going to lose a lot of money because as Warner Media has said, we're going to release every movie that we're putting in the theaters for the whole year. We're going to release for free on HBO Max. Started with Wonder Woman 1984. But they said that as a result, our subscribers went to 41 million subscribers at $15 a month. So that's something. I love it because I can watch movies for free.
What is HBO Max? Because I have it and I don't know what it is.
No one knows what it is.
Well, that's the whole thing, right? They've diluted the HBO brand, the pinnacle, the best brand in all of entertainment, like literally the crown jewel. And they're like, yeah, let's just make it this hodgepodge of all these things.
It's the Amazon Prime of HBO.
It is.
It is. Yeah. It's the Amazon Prime of HBO. And it's a shame because I don't mind having all of the Warner Media properties in one place and having access to this, additional stuff. And some of the HBO Max programming, which is different from HBO programming, has been quite good. But I'm sure that a lot. Sorry, go on.
Is HBO Max not as good as HBO? Do I have a lesser HBO?
It's HBO Plus. It's everything you got on HBO. You have everything. Plus a lot of crap.
Exactly. So you have all the HBO stuff, which is excellent. Right. And then you have some additional HBO Max original things, which would probably not be greenlit by HBO, but you get the HBO stuff too.
The Flight Attendant show. There's a good example.
The Flight Attendant was good, right?
Was it really?
I mean,
was
look,
it?
Look, it was Showtime. Okay, it was Showtime. HBO wouldn't have aired it, but Showtime would have. So
yeah, okay.
I'm fine with it.
Yeah, you're right.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm not mad at it existing.
I am, because I watched it.
I mean, I did too. But
6 hours of my life I'm never getting back.
I mean, again, it was Showtime, but it's just, I'm more mad at the name. The name is, no one understands.
It really should be HBO less, is what it
should just be called Warner whatever.
Warner
and
TV, yeah.
With HBO, so that people know that they get HBO with it too.
There's a Denzel Washington, cop movie, The Little Details, that I thought was pretty good, except for the ending, which was terrible. I mean, that was a movie that would have come out in January, which means they had no hope of Oscar nominations.
Exactly. They're like, we're burning this off.
Yeah, they're burning. Yeah, even though it had 3, not 1 but 2, but 3 Oscar-winning actors. It was Rami Malek, it was Denzel Washington, and it was Jared Leto. 3 Oscar-winning actors. It was a good movie for the first 3 quarters of it. I enjoyed it.
No, see, that's how you get greenlit, Leo. That's how you get greenlit. You hire all those people, and that's how you get the funding. And then they see it, and they're like, oh, yeah, this didn't work.
The little things.
So we're releasing this in January.
Yeah, exactly. There's The Matrix, 8. I don't know what number it is now. 4? I don't know. The new Matrix movie is going to come out.
I mean, I'll watch it and hate myself for it because I think we can all acknowledge there's one Matrix film.
There's really only one good one. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, I can't say I'm sad to see HBO eat a $15.5 billion impairment charge.
You mean AT&T? Like, because we like HBO.
AT&T, not HBO, AT&T, right. But they own Warner Media. They own Time Warner, right? I'm confused.
Well, they sold off Time. They sold off all the Time.
They sold Time, so all this stuff. Fortune has its own boss now.
Mark Benioff.
Mark Benioff.
Mark Benioff bought Fortune?
Yeah.
Yep.
What?
Yep.
I know.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Try to follow. Try to keep up. It's okay. I know.
He's full of basics.
I can't mock because I worked for TechCrunch twice now. The first time I worked for it when it was part of AOL, and then Verizon bought it and merged it with Yahoo and made Oath. And then I quit. And then I came back. And now it's Verizon Media Group, which is run by some nice people.
No.
But I'm still not entirely sure.
TechCrunch is still a great publication. Thank God they haven't messed it up, right?
Right.
No, actually, to be clear, they've been good stewards of the TechCrunch property in my view.
Yeah.
But I mean, I do giggle a little bit about how I ended up where I am at times. The corporate, combination shenanigans that have happened.
Yeah. Okay. I was going to talk about some other stuff, but I'm bored. So let's just wrap it up.
Old Leo honesty.
I put a lot of stories in here. Sometimes they're just not that interesting. So
can I point one thing?
Yes.
I love doing this because I read all these things I'd never otherwise read. I would never have read Susan Wojcicki's letter.
Wojcicki's letter to the YouTube creators. Yeah.
In there's this little fact that 1 billion hours was 1 billion hours was spent watching. No, 100 billion hours was watching gaming content on YouTube in 2020. So I did the math, and if you figure a human life is about 1 million hours, if you live to 114. 100 billion divided by 1 million is 100,000 lives
wasted
in 2000.
Watching some 10-year-old play Minecraft. I know it's hard to believe.
That's COVID level destruction of human life.
I want to argue against this. I know we're wrapping up, but let me just say
no, it's good. If there's a good story, I'll go with it. That's good.
I recently started to play a game called Civilization 6, which if you haven't played it is a Civ 6. It's a great way to ruin your life, your marriage, because it just consumes your entire life. And what I've been doing is been watching people who are good at Civ 6 on YouTube.
It's true, actually.
And I've learned a lot. And so, I mean, Philip is mocking me fairly, I think. But I do want to say that, this is the new stuff that just came out. I was playing this morning, actually. It's been huge to me. I'm now much better at Civ. Now, Philip might argue that that's a waste of my life. Valid. But I will say, at least it had the thing. I got out of it what I wanted to get out of it. No,
that's true. I have to say, even though I am devoted to Animal Crossing New Horizons, I haven't watched any YouTube videos on how to. I feel like I can kind of figure it out
Some of the island tours are really fun though. To see how people have done stuff to their islands. I love that.
That's part of the problem is I look at what people have done and I feel like such a slacker.
I mean, same. I feel terrible. I'm like, I'm like, how do you do that? Like, but it's still fun to watch.
They keep, they give you an evaluation every week. And I keep getting only 4 stars because they say you got too much crap scattered around your island.
You're like, where else can I put it? I run out of space. How do I get my 5-star island?
They actually say you should sell it. You should just sell it. Stop keeping everything. I love that. Did you play? You still play?
Yeah.
I love it. It's a really nice.
I stopped for a while, but I started up again. It's
a peaceful
very wholesome.
game. It's wholesome.
It's fun.
I need wholesome games. Here's a guy who's going to build an amazing lake. I don't know why she's standing there just looking expectantly at us with her shovel in her hand.
Shovel, yeah. She's ready to go.
Go ahead, do it. Do it. Oh, there she goes. Whoa. She's building a lake. Yep.
Wow.
I've seen people. A real person? I've seen people. Well, I don't know.
It's a real fake person.
It's a human behind it. Let's put it that way.
Wait, what? I've never played this game before. This is amazing.
Oh, it's a great game.
It's an amazing game. You'd love it.
It's on the Switch. You have to. I actually bought a Switch just to play Animal Crossing. That's how.
If I bought a Switch, I would get fired. I think so. I'm not going to let myself.
If you have a Civ 6 problem, you probably enjoy this game too.
I was just going to say, yeah, you would enjoy it. Also, there's a stock market component with it.
Do you buy? I don't buy turnips anymore. I feel like I've really hurt my. When they say stock market, it's STALK, stock market.
Yep.
Turnip stalks. Every Sunday, the lady comes and offers you turnips, and you can spend hundreds of thousands or millions if you want on turnips. Problem is, you have to put them somewhere, and then every day from the rest of the week, you have to see what the turnip prices are. And the idea is obviously buy low and sell high. But if you're not careful, you can either lose a lot of money or get stuck with lots of turnips. They go bad. They go bad. Yeah. And I had rotten turnips in my dining room. I was very depressed, so I stopped. Do you buy turnips on Sundays?
Yeah, but usually what I do is I island hop and I find the places that have low prices and then high prices, and then you get in queues and you wait forever, and then you sell and make a big profit.
Yeah.
And so that's what I do. But I kind of got to the point where I had enough money where I was like, I don't need any more money. I don't have to do this. I've gamed it enough.
That's the problem. I don't need any more money. But after a while, there's nothing you can buy. So it's like you don't really need the money. I've got millions of dollars in the bank with nothing to do with it. So anyway.
I don't think anything's going to be funnier to me ever in my life than Leo saying, I don't buy turnips anymore.
I stopped buying turnips. I had to. I had a turnip problem. I had a turnip problem. Yeah.
I'm done with beets. Root vegetables are passe. Forget them.
Are there any other stories? You guys did so much homework. I didn't realize you were going to read all the stories I'd bookmarked. Are there any other stories that you wanted to talk about that I did not mention? I don't want to leave you out. Anything else? I thought that's a good stat. 100 billion hours of game video viewed. Crazy. I think turnips go bad could be a show title. There are 2 related stories that I'm a little worried about. Amazon has announced that its Echo devices now can act on hunches to turn lights off and more. I think you're going to bed, so I'm just going to turn off all the lights. What could possibly go wrong? And it goes side by side with Elon Musk announcing that the new Tesla Model S's will decide whether you want to go forward, backward, or neutral. They'll shift for you. Again, what could possibly go wrong? I don't know.
This stuff is always going to come because, we have better predictive technology, more data, and better analytics. I'll just say, though, I'm not yet ready to let Elon decide which direction I'm going to drive the car.
That's a good thing.
Right. Seriously.
I don't think. He's also announced a steering wheel that looks like the yoke of an airplane. One little problem, you can't do hand over hand, so you won't be actually able to turn very much because it's just a U. It's not a whole steering wheel. And a number of safety experts have said that's not going to even be legal. You can't put a flight yoke in a Model S. So
don't worry, it won't come out, Leo. I mean, how long ago did they announce the Roadster that was going to go 0 to 60 in like half a second, and they showed it off and put the media in it?
I was going to say, where's the Cybertruck?
Yeah, where's the truck? I want the truck.
Maybe they're still working on the design of the exterior.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is time to say goodnight to our counselor at large, Philip Elmers-Glue DeWitt. Here is his. Wait a minute. Show his.
The poster?
I found the poster. Thank you.
So good.
Let's stick together.
So good.
Did Borden call you and say, "Sir, you can't use our bowl"?
I actually did my due diligence. I called Borden. It was hard to find anybody. When you call the secretary,
somebody wants to use the Elmers-Glue label in his campaign.
So I got a call a couple hours later from the lawyers. The question was, can I use the bull? And she said no. So the poster that I put on everybody's lawn had no bull.
No bull, even better. That's your other slogan. Let's stick together. No bull.
No bull.
I think that bull is Elsie's brother or something, right? Because
I love though that you called them, that you did your due diligence. That's amazing. You should have been elected for that alone. No other person running for city council would have taken that effort to actually call the Borden Glue Company.
Well,
I love that so much.
We are the county seat, so there are a lot of lawyers in town.
Nice.
So I thought I would get called on it.
One question, though. Doesn't counselor have 2 L's?
Which would city. I don't know. Not in Greenfield.
Not in Greenfield. That's all that matters. That's all that matters. Philip Elmer DeWitt. Subscribe. PED30.com. A great way to get all of your news, your Apple news especially. It's always a pleasure. Thank you for joining us, Philip.
Thank you. Really Thanks for having me.
Christina Warren. She is a developer advocate, a cloud advocate at Microsoft. She has somebody in the chat room. Mike Heiss said, she has a beautiful Brooklyn loft. I really like that.
I wish.
I really like that apartment. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, Christina, at film_girl on Twitter. Anything you want to plug there?
Yeah, so my weekly tech news podcast, Rocket, relay.fm/rocket. If you want to give that a listen, that's a lot of fun. And I know you've had Simone and Bree on before, too. I know that Simone and Alex are best friends.
The best people in the world, Brianna Wu and Simone de Rochefort, and Christina Warren. I mean, that is a show to listen to. You got to listen to that.
We have a great time. Yeah. We have a great time. So thank you so much. And I love being on Twitter. I'm so glad to be back.
Oh, we love having you on. The latest episode of Rocket is from yesterday or the day before, GameStonk.
Yes. We recorded before the Robin Hood Mania, where Robin Hood was stopping the trades, because we recorded on Tuesday. So it's completely out of date, but I
love it.
It was still fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Relay.fm/rocket. And Alex Wilhelm, my brother from another mother. Always great to see you, reporter at TechCrunch. Anything you want to plug? You do their podcast, right?
Yeah, if you care about venture capital and startups, we do a podcast called Equity. Otherwise, I'm on Twitter, and say hi.
Yeah, Equity Podcast at TechCrunch.com. Latest episode, Why Calendar Invites Are Worth $3 billion. He also had a Robin Hood episode that day. You did 2 shows in one day.
Yeah.
Crazy man.
Poor Alex. Alex was like, can the news stop so that I can put content out without having to
Stop the news. I want to get off.
You guys joke. But I finished a lot of work days lately. I go into the house and I just lay down face first on the couch. And I'm like, all right, that's enough. I just try to fall asleep.
Good thing your wife's a psychiatrist. That's all I can say.
No, totally. There's a part of me that was kind of missing being in news during all of this craziness. And then there was another part of me who was like, okay, the downside, Christina, would be you wouldn't have slept because you would just be writing and then having to rewrite and then having to change and update. I would have been like you, Alex, just face down.
It's been a lot.
Head.
Yeah. My parents are like, how are you doing? I'm like, terrible. They're like, why? I'm like, well, everything's happening at once. That's why.
Happening.
Well, thank you for, I really appreciate it for you, because you could have taken tonight off, but instead you allowed us to take some of your time. So I really, all 3 of you, I really appreciate it. It was a great show. Really nice to have you. We do Twit every Sunday. For me, it's the afternoon, 2:30 p.m. Pacific. For Alex, it's the evening, 5:30, and for Philip, 5:30 p.m. Eastern time. That's 2230 UTC. You could figure out what time it is for you. The reason I mention the time we do it, we do live streams of the production of all of our shows at twit.tv/live, live audio and video. If you're watching or listening live, chat live with us. The chat room is irc.twit.tv. They're also watching live at the same time, and that's open 24/7, as is our stream. You can get on-demand versions of everything we do at our website, twit.tv, including This Week in Tech. Of course, there's a YouTube channel, so you can watch it there. And we encourage you to subscribe if you get a podcast client. Just subscribe. That way you'll get it automatically the minute it's done on a Sunday, so you have it for your Monday morning commute from the bedroom to the living room. It's a short commute, but you take your time so you can hear the whole show. It's a nice long one today. We also want to remind you that we have a couple of other ways to interact with us. There's a Twit forum at www.twit.community. Yes, there is a .community. It's long, but it's effective. And at twit.social, we have a Mastodon instance, so you can join us in the Fediverse. Mastodon is a Twitter clone, but it is not run by any company. Servers are run by anybody who wants to run one. We have our own twit.social, but it lets you follow people on any other instance anywhere in the world. Thanks for joining us, everyone. I'm Leo Laporte. We'll see you next time. Another Twit.
This is amazing.